What's going on, fine astrolabians? It is Friday. It is Friday, and one hell of a Friday it has been. I just went down to let the dog out because he demanded that he wanted to go out suddenly, even though he's been out most of the day. He really needed to go out. Last thing I need is for him to drop a dookie in the house, so I go down to take him out and discover that he had horked all over the floor downstairs. Fortunately, it's hardwood floor, so it's relatively easy to clean up. But that was just a delightful experience. I love cleaning dog vomit with like half-digested food and a bunch of bile. That was fun. That was a great way to continue what has been just a wonderful Friday. I'm very blessed. I have so many things to be thankful for. I am thankful that I get to be here talking to you guys, sharing with you the interesting things that I've come across in the last, almost everything that I'll be talking about today is stuff that's been tweeted or shared or something just in the last couple of days. Got some stuff on the election, some voter stuff, voter fraud stuff. CNN has some interesting things they're sharing. Washington Post has chosen not to endorse a presidential candidate, and the rank and file are melting down. Editor-in-chief resigned in protest. Seems that Mr. Bezos has laid down the law. He has put down the hammer, and the plebs don't like it. Well, the plebs can suck it. Waiting to see when this Joe Rogan Trump interview is going to drop. I'm guessing it'll probably drop. My guess would be it'll drop on Monday. If they're not going to do it live today, which I mean, maybe they do it live, but I'd be pretty surprised. I think that they are recording today, he is there to do the show today, but presumably it's going to be a recording, and then I would imagine they would drop on Monday. If they drop it over the weekend, it might be a little easier to kind of ignore, but dropping on Monday would get max narrative effect. We'll see. I kind of waited around a little bit to see if it was going to drop at some point, because I guess now if it does drop between now and 8 p.m. Central tonight, then maybe that's what we'll watch for the Schizo stream. We have the next couple episodes of The Art of the Surge, Tucker's very, very good documentary from his men embedded with Trump's team. Watched the first couple episodes a few weeks ago. It was really, really good, very well produced, and it's just fascinating to see behind the scenes on all this stuff. And then the next couple are up and ready to go. So that's what's on the docket. If you would like to join us for that, the way we usually do the Schizo stream is just a voice chat in Discord. Everyone hops in. I share my screen. We watch whatever it is that we're going to watch, and then we pause and discuss. The idea is supposed to be kind of like you're sitting down in the man cave with your bros, and you're watching something on the projector screen, cracking a beer, or you're consuming whatever form of nicotine you prefer. That's ostensibly kind of the vibe. It's like a digital man cave. And it always winds up being that we usually start about 8. We usually watch something. Takes a couple hours, depending on how much stopping to talk there is. And then afterwards, we just hang out on the voice chat until everyone finally decides to turn in. So most of them have gone until 2 or 3 in the morning, my time. So if that's something that sounds fun to you, then go to kingpill.com. Join up. Become one of the elite members. The Schizo streams are available to everyone on the King Pill Discord. So if that sounds like your jam, if you're looking for a community to plug into, we've got a good one for you. It's not cheap. The price point is high. They look at it and they say, "Sir, that price point is high." And I say, "Yes, because we want to keep the riffraff out. We only want the best of the best. We want people who are invested to maximize, make sure we have a high quality community, and we try to return as much value as we can for that high price point. We have a deep respect for you guys, those of you who are in there, who are contributing your hard-earned bucks. We want to give you as much value as we can, which is one of the reasons why we have partnered up with Axios Fitness Coaching. If you feel like you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, whether you're needing that psychologically or physically, maybe you're a little doughy, you're working one of those email jobs, you're starting to recognize that you need to be fit and ready for man's work. You need to be able to get out in the mud, in the muck, the trees, the minerals, whatever it is, hacking rocks out of the ground. You need to get yourself in shape to stave off the decay of modernity. Well, the place for you to be is at Axios Fitness Coaching. So if you join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com, at the Lord tier or above, if you become a Lord or a King, the three tiers are peasant, Lord, and King. So you get to self-identify where you see yourself. If you're one of the Lords or the Kings, then you get access to a special set of 5 free modules, along with they'll send you the app to download, so you can start training on your own. If you know what you're doing more or less, you've got the equipment, you got the gear, you don't have any major injuries, or anything like that, then that's the place to go. Start off with the app, get the 5 free training templates, and get to work. You can also fill out the intake survey, and they will, if you need something maybe a little more tailored to you, you don't really know your way around the gym, maybe you don't have a lot of equipment, they can tailor it to you. Even if you've got just a minimal level of equipment, they can give you a good set of workouts, and also address diet and nutrition. So if you need some motivation, you need diet, nutrition advice, you need a training, a customization, then they can do that for you. Just fill out the intake survey in the description here. There's a link in the description on the YouTube video. So if you're watching on X, then you'll have to go over to YouTube, go to the description and click that link. And I'll drop the link as well in the master thread that I put out after I do the show today. I've got 4 windows worth of tabs, and I'll type out the master thread. Post it at Real King Pilled is the Twitter handle, and you can get that link. And yeah, that is the place to go. If you go to the King Pill Discord, then you also can fill out the intake survey, but you'll get those 5 free training templates as well. All right, let us rock and roll. Yes, fit for the upcoming struggle. You want to be fit like this guy. We're going to start this off with some energy. Come on. No notifications. Go away. Oh, it's the Prudentialist. That's okay. Friday energy. Let's go. Yeah. Because me and my clique, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. Trick Daddy. You got it, Daddy. This is literally me. Now, unfortunately, this is literally me at like midnight. This is not literally me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Junk Sock, how did you get this video? Someone's been following you around, man. You gotta keep your head on a swivel. And then this one goes out to everyone who wants to say that white people don't have culture. This is a long one. This is where we get the stream demonetized right off the bat. So please do hit the like button, comment if you're watching live, comment in the live chat. Any little bit of engagement, even if you dislike the video, you're still engaging with it, and the algorithm likes that. So engage with the video in some way. And then if you want to support what we're doing here, beyond joining the King Pill Discord, if that's a little too much commitment for you, you just kind of want to dip your toe in, then you can become a channel member for $5 a month here on YouTube. You can send a super chat if you're watching live, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. If you don't want to give 30% of whatever money you give to me to Google by super chatting or becoming a member, if you are constitutionally opposed to doing that, I give $20 a month away to YouTube to get YouTube Premium because it's just that worthwhile to me. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to give just a tiny little bit away to a payment processor and get the most of it to me, then go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, and you can support everything we're doing. I found out this morning that yet another thing demands my money. It's one of those unfortunate, random, chaotic things that happens. You get a windshield broken, and right when the lease, we're a month before the lease is going to be returned. Actually, we're less than a month now. November 22. A month away, and we're over the mileage. I'm already budgeting that in, and here we go. Now we got to replace a windshield as well. So if you want to contribute to what I'm doing as I continue to do this as full time as I can, then go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, and you can throw your man a couple of bucks. We got 64 watching right now and 17 likes. Come on, guys. Come on. Hit that like button. Please. Don't make me beg for the engagement. You can do it. Do it for the white man.
Just let them know that we have a finite amount of time on this planet, and you can be viciously mediocre, or you can get the fuck after it.
Lord, I can't change. Won't you fly free, bird, yeah.
How could you ever be black-pilled about America? Come on. America's fucking cool, bros. Even the Canadian gets it. We got a leaf here in the chat. Slosher. America. This video is approved for real Patriot use only. Absolutely awesome. Under Project 2025, America's going to be cool again. This is what's not cool. I mean, now the experience of this video is pretty cool, but what's happening in this video is not. The slow zoom, the audio, the suspense. Marvel movies could never achieve this level of quality. As we're watching this, let's get some bids in the chat. Everyone needs to start bidding on the likelihood that this driver is a Pajit. Okay, holding you in suspense for a minute. At this point, I'm sitting here looking at this, and I'm like, all right, so this guy's stopping. For whatever reason, he's stopping. Why is he stopping? Look at all the room that he has in front of him. Look at the big open gravel lot next to him. Why is he stopping here? What could possibly compel him to stop right here, right now? And now, the other traffic, they're picking up on what's going on. Nope. We're out. Get the fuck out. Bail. Abandon ship. Look at all the frickin' room he has. Look how much frickin' room there is. This isn't like some poor guy got stuck in traffic. He could like do a complete woo round and round in circles here. Boom! So I got to say, shout out to the other drivers for picking up on what's going on here, and the coordination it took there to whoop get out of there. No, he definitely didn't stall, because you could see right here at the beginning, or right here just before he gets hit, he starts pulling forward. You know why he's pulling forward? Because he was trying to turn left. That's why he stopped. He stopped because there was cars in the way, and he was trying to turn left, and they just wouldn't move. This is what a woman would do. The Pajeets are spiritually woman. Whammo! I hope he owned that truck. I hope he was an owner-operator. They gave him so much space. They completely bailed him out. Even though he already had, like, acres of room, they were like, all right, we're gonna bail you out just a little bit more. Here. We're going to completely abandon the intersection altogether. I actually don't know for sure that it was a Pajeet, but it was a Pajeet thing to do. This is how they drive. I've experienced it firsthand many times. No one in the world exists except for them. And this isn't like a self-obsession thing. This isn't like a white shit lib when nothing in the world exists except for them. This is like a only operating on the feral intelligence level. Just see thing, go get it. I need to turn left. I'm just going to sit here and turn left. What's that? Train horn? I hope that he was not driving someone else's truck. All right, next one. Want to keep this story front and center for you guys. Appalachian people are tough. Elderly sisters were home when a 20-foot wall of mud hit their house. Listen to these gnarly old birds.
The water was like this deep, and I came back inside, and it went boom, and I looked, and a big old tree had just hit it. And when it was coming down, it was clipping other big trees with it. So then with all these trees, they just hit them and fell, hit the house, and boom again, it split into pieces, and it just split down the middle. And my sister looked, and it was like a 20-foot wall of mud, dirt, everything. I shoved her on the bed, and she grabbed a little dog, and then the house just split apart, and we stayed on a mattress for about 5 miles and went down a river.
Rode down the river on a mattress for 5 miles.
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
We had a little bit of a house behind us, and then we ended up slamming into a rubble,
The debris?
Yeah, the mattress snapped in half and slingshot me way over there. She went down, and all I had was my nightgown and I was like scooting across trees and everything. After I looked, I'm not broken,
Yeah.
And I called her, and it took me an hour to get her pulled up and the dog.
Yeah.
And then we spent the rest of that night hanging on.
Yeah.
We put plastic bags on our heads trying to stay warm and just huddled up to each other.
And tried whatever was around us.
Yeah, whatever. I call it cane floating by. Then I found a bottle of water floating by.
Oh.
I mean, I reached out there and get it.
What?
He said it was flood, and I don't have flood insurance. And I just had him at my house like 5 months ago, upgrading it.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, but I got his card. Yes.
Oh.
That was even better because he just looked me dead in the face.
What I want to know is, how do they have their purses? How did they get out of all of that and hold on to their purses? Like, she's got his card from... This doesn't make any sense to me. Somehow she still has the card? Anyways.
And said you did not need insurance?
He said I didn't need flood insurance, and I said, but I have it was a little tiny creek out there. I said, well, I have content. I have, all my antiques and everything. I said. He goes, no, you get nothing. That was it, nothing.
I know the cars, 2 trucks floated down the creek. The water was going about 75 miles an hour.
gosh.
And when I was in the water, he just took my shoes right off me.
How did you eventually get rescued?
This lady, my neighbor lady, came down the next day looking. They were looking for some of her husband's stuff that got washed out of the garage, and she was walking around. I thought I heard people talking, and I'm like, no, that was nobody. And then I'm like, it's an angel. I did, I really did, because she's the sweetest little lady. And she started hollering, and I hollered back, and she goes, stay there. So they had to go get like a bunch of men to come down in big saws. It took them like 45 minutes cutting trees to even get to us, because they thought we were dead. Nobody thought we could survive what we went
I can
through.
imagine. Yeah.
You know, they carried us out. They had to make like a shift thing on
So-
Yeah, I just got out of rehab with
For your hip.
It was infected, and so I just,
Bless
that was
your heart.
first
Then,
week
yeah,
out.
then they took us to Nesbitt's church, and they were wonderful there. And got a helicopter for us, and got us over to AD Tech. She lost her hearing aid, she lost her teeth, I lost my teeth.
Yeah. Prayed all night,
We did. We did.
Right all night.
asking.
When I saw daylight, I'm like, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna be okay.
Oh,
Then at
God, I love
lunch,
you.
I'm going, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna be okay. Then I got to climb out. About at 4 o'clock, I'm going, oh my God, I hope we're okay.
Bless your heart.
I could hear the waterfall, and she kept going all night long. Trees would hit us, and she goes, "What if we get knocked loose?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We're gone. If we got knocked, if something, one more thing hit us and knocked us loose, it was over." Well, we wasn't in the bed by then. The bed was way over there. We were just hanging onto a tree.
You're the bravest
Oh, yeah.
women I've ever known.
He says here, please scan the QR code to go to Jackie and Cynthia's GoFundMe page. Thank you so much. There isn't a barcode here because this is a Twitter share from TikTok, but I'm sure you could come up with Jackie and Cynthia if you looked for Jackie and Cynthia in North Carolina. Go to TikTok and you could find it pretty easily, I'm sure. Colin says, I work with people like this every day. This is my people. This is my family. He corrected it to kin. I understood what he meant. Straight Buster says, someone come get your mama. Shout out to the mamas, man. These are our people. This is America. We played that video about America. America takes care of its people. These women are going to need help. They're two of many thousands. VAI says, I'm from Hendersonville. A buddy of mine in Asheville lives in a 3-story apartment complex. We watched the other 2 apartment complexes next to his collapse and wash away, filled with families. Jesus Christ, have mercy. Wow. Nick Jack says, these are the women that I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by my entire life. Appalachian women are so special. Shout out to Jackie and Cynthia, man. And another update on previous stories. CBS News. Space station crew taken for medical evaluation after return from record-setting 235-day mission. I saw this and I was like, wait a second. Weren't these the guys that got stranded? And now they're back? 3 NASA astronauts and a Russian cosmonaut returned to Earth early Friday, splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico to close out an extended 235-day expedition to the International Space Station. But one crew member experienced a medical issue of some sort after splashdown and was hospitalized in Pensacola. The astronaut is in stable condition after observation as a precautionary measure, NASA said in a statement 10 hours after the Crew Dragon's landing. To protect the crew members' medical privacy, specific details on the individual's condition or identity will not be released. The other 3 crew members were flown back to the Johnson Space Center aboard a NASA jet. No other details were immediately available. After a high-speed re-entry above Central America and a steep descent to the Gulf, Crew 8 Commander Matthew Dominic, co-pilot Michael Barrett, astronaut Jeanette Epps, and cosmonaut Alexander Grabenkin settled to a relatively gentle on-target splashdown south of Pensacola, Florida at 3:29 a.m. Imagine how freaking cool it would be to go through that. We got people out here like splashing down in the middle of the night just off the coast of Pensacola. The SpaceX team stationed nearby was on the scene within minutes to stabilize the capsule, make sure no toxic propellant fumes were present, and then to haul it aboard a nearby recovery ship where NASA flight surgeons and support personnel were standing by to help the returning station flyers out of the crew cabin. Despite 2 hours of exercise per day throughout their stay in orbit, returning station astronauts need about a month or so to regain their land legs after months in the weightless environment of space. As usual for returning station crews, Dominic, Barrett, Epps, and Grabenkin were carried out of the Crew Dragon and helped onto stretchers before being rolled inside the ship for initial medical checks and calls to family and friends. All 4 appeared in good spirits, smiling and waving as they were rolled inside. Scrolling down here. Launched on March 3, the Crew 8 flyers originally expected to return to Earth in September, but the flight slipped into early October in the wake of a decision to delay the launch of their Crew 9 replacements because of problems with Boeing's Starliner crew ferry ship. NASA eventually ruled out bringing Starliner commander Barry Butch Wilmore and co-pilot Sunita Williams back to Earth aboard the Boeing spacecraft. Instead, the Starliner came down without its crew on September 7, and Crew 9 was launched with just 2 passengers, Nick Hague and cosmonaut Alexander Gobernov, on September 28. That freed up 2 seats aboard the Crew Dragon for Wilmore and Williams to use when they come home next February with Haig and Gorbanov. Sorting all that out pushed the Crew 8 departure into October. NASA and SpaceX then were repeatedly held up by high winds and rough seas at the approved splashdown sites, much of it related to hurricanes Helene and Milton. But this week, conditions in the Gulf finally met their NASA safety guidelines, and the crew was cleared to undock and head for home. With Crew 8 back on Earth, the Crew 9 crew will aboard their own Crew Dragon capsule early Sunday, November 3, undock from the Harmony module's forward port, and then redock at its spacefaring port. The next day, an ISS-bound SpaceX cargo ship is scheduled for launch from the Kennedy Space Center. After an automated rendezvous, the ship will dock at the just-vacated forward port on November 5, Election Day in the United States. Isn't that interesting? So it looks like there's still 2 that are yet to come back until February, but originally, the whole crew wasn't going to be back until February. And this was even after SpaceX had stepped in to bail out NASA. And here they are back in October. At least 2 of them, it sounds like. Love him or hate him, this is insanely impressive. There's been lots of dialogue, I suppose, back and forth between the 2 campaigns about who's running out of energy. Well, here's an example of 78-year-old Donald Trump. Imagine you yourself having this schedule and then doing it for like 2+ months nonstop.
Starting our day off bright and early, it is 7:30 a.m. and we are leaving Trump Tower and heading to Fox Studios. President Trump was excited to join Fox & Friends live from the famous curvy couch. Never far behind are the men who keep our boss safe every day, and we are thankful for them. The day continues rolling as he joins Dan Bongino for a live stream, and he never leaves without signing a MAGA hat. Now on to our 3rd interview of the morning with legendary WWE's Mark Calloway, also known as The Undertaker. We film a quick TikTok, depart the city, and 2 hours later, we are wheels down in Michigan. President Trump stops by to shake hands and thank the tireless Michigan campaign team. The motorcade heads to our next stop, where President Trump arrives to speak at a roundtable on building America's future. If you're lucky, he may even sign your shirt. Pulling into our final event of the day, and before he heads on stage, he always makes time to take photos with law enforcement. And now the fun begins. There is nothing like the energy of a Trump rally. President Trump delivers his promise to make America safe and prosperous again. It's not over until you see the iconic Trump dance. And just when you think he might be finished, he has his 4th interview of the day and calls into a tele-rally for Kari Lake. It's 1 a.m. back in New York City, and that's a wrap.
That is a hell of a schedule. Speaking of the dance, the golf swing at the end is so legendary. Shout out Logan Hall. Just watching an entertainer, an absolute master of his craft at peak game. He's so memeable. It's funny seeing the TikTok chicks now. You got the white girls on TikTok who've taken up the dance. And it's funny that this dance I don't remember it at all from 2016. Maybe it was there. 2020 it was. People, like, toward the end of 2020, people started memeing his dance. I remember the first one that really went around. Now it's all over the place, which I would say is an indication of the campaign's responsiveness, their interplay with their base. As soon as the thing starts to become a meme, they jump on it and they begin capitalizing on it. But he's able to do it so authentically that it is authentic. He's like, oh, you guys like it when I do this? All right, let's do a little bit more. Here's a new ad directed at Pennsylvania Catholics featuring RFK Jr.
My Catholicism provided the foundation for a lifetime of striving to perfect my personal relationship with God. 2 features of Catholicism are the notions of original sin and the concept of a forgiving God. Our job is to strive to perfect ourselves through conscious contact with our Creator, knowing that in human form, we're never going to achieve perfection. We'll always slip, but each time we get to get up and strive again. The same's true for America. Even when we don't live up to our national ideals, we get to remedy our shortfalls through unified action. That hope has led me to support Donald Trump. President Trump has promised to take bold action on our economy, on the border, and on restoring children's health. The Democratic Party has become the party of war, censorship, and corruption. Catholics may disagree on many issues, but we must find a way to love our children more than we hate each other. I hope you'll join me in supporting Donald Trump.
I've heard some of RFK's spiritual commentary in the past, and he's very clearly essentially some kind of like new agey Christian-ish kind of little pagany, but everything he said in this was bang on. This is actually like a great message, like leaving aside any of the other stuff that he may believe, like what he's actually signaling. Remember we talked about like the elite hypocrisy? He may have his own more personal spiritual foibles or inclinations or whatever that wouldn't square with Catholic dogma or Christianity in general. But publicly, what he's signaling is the really like the heart of the gospel, speaking directly to Catholics. So we have a guy, one of the most famous Democrats who has abandoned the Democratic Party, aligned himself with Trump, and he is signaling to Catholics. He's signaling to Americans, American Christians. You cannot blackpill. Their messaging is coordinated. Trump says Kamala Harris has finally lost the Catholic vote. Her and the Democrats' persecution of the Catholic Church is unprecedented. Her poll numbers have dropped like a rock, both with Catholics and otherwise. What took so long? RFK Jr. has been pushing hard for Catholics to vote for Trump. Kamala again made a fool of herself last night at a radical left fundraiser, and this after putting on a very low IQ display at a fake news CNN town hall. She was almost incoherent, and even host Allison Cooper, who couldn't get her to make any sense, became agitated. Kamala is demanding late-term abortion in months 7, 8, 9, and even execution after birth, and people aren't buying it, and they never will. She is a radical left lunatic. One thing I love about Trump is that he has like the particular issues that he knows are most relevant to different groups of people. And when he's talking to those people, he has no shame and just being like, hey, here's this particular thing that you really care about. He hasn't been making a huge deal generally talking to everyone about Kamala demanding late-term abortion. He's brought it up a lot, but he knows that this is a major rallying issue for many Catholics. So that's the thing he's going to hammer on. He's like, listen, I know you care about this. I care about it because you care about it. Vote for me to take care of it for you. This is a delightful update in American political software. My lovely wife is in the chat, just tuning in. She says, oinks in the chat. The reason for the oinks is we do the oinks in honor of Pig Dirk, my son's best friend. His imaginary friend that wanders around with him and really gets in trouble really often. Pig Dirk does lots of bad things. He's a bad influence. So we're constantly having to talk to our son about being a good influence on Pig Dirk and not letting him do bad things. Pig Dirk has a wife named Pigshee and 2 sons and a daughter. The daughter is Babe Dirk, and the sons are Fridge Dirk and Rock Dirk. So oinks in the chat in honor of the Dirk family. And do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 42 now. We got 94 watching. 42 likes. Let's see if we can make it 4 days in a row. 100 likes. 100 likes during the live stream. Can you like this? A tweet from Trump. A great hero. Thank you. Such an honor. This will get you in the emotions a little bit.
Sergeant John Ford and his daughter Laura.
President Trump. Sir, I brought you a Purple Heart I want to present you for your injuries. What a great job you've done for our country. Yeah. But I would like for you to have that, sir. It has my name on the back. Is that yours? Is it your medal? Yes, sir. It has my name on the back.
That's fantastic. Here, I want to put on my seat. Okay.
Shout out to this guy. I say this guy's the crack of the day. And James Lindsay's going in the crystals, but he has a duty beforehand.
Jimmy, get up. You're getting up, Jimmy. Let's go. Let's go, Jimmy. I'm not going to use foul language. Get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote, Jimmy. You're going to vote. We're going to save our country, Jimmy. We're going to save our country. Now you got to go vote. Jimmy, get up.
Now it's Jimmy. Who was it before? I can't remember what the guy he did this for before. Dave? No, it wasn't Dave. There's another white guy name. Yeah, I like how he's redoing his bit. Magoo says, I feel like he's talking directly to me. He is. Harry, that's what it was. Yeah, Harry. Jason Miranchuk, you get those goats out of here. This is an oinks only chat. You keep your dirty goats away from us. You goat father. Mel Gibson. We don't deserve him, man. Someone caught up to Mel Gibson on the street, and he was dropping bars.
Being voted on in days. What's your thoughts?
Oh, man, that's a big question.
What's wrong?
I don't think it's going to surprise anyone who I vote for.
Well, so, I mean, I'm going to guess. Where you going? Yeah. I'm going to guess, Trump. Is that a bad guess?
I think it's a pretty good guess.
Well, what do you think the world will be like in a second term with President Trump's second term? A lot of people.
I know what it'll be like if we let her in.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And that ain't good.
Yeah. Well,
miserable track record, appalling track record, no policies to speak of.
Yeah. And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
Being voted on.
Speaking of IQ of the fence post, I don't think we need to bother with a check on the dude who was filming. Shout out to Mel Gibson for actually engaging with him, because he did not sound like they're sending their best. So JD Vance did a town hall with Chris Cuomo, and Trump called in. This is a fun little interaction.
Senator, you're going to want to sit down for this one.
Oh no.
Not unlike Beetlejuice. If you invoke the former president's names too many times in a row, he's going to want to weigh in on what is being said about him. And we have a call right now from former President Donald John Trump. He wants to weigh in. Mr. President,
Now, you can tell we're going to really get into this here. It's a fun clip just in general, but you could see a kind of an interesting little interaction. JD is genuinely surprised by this. He didn't think this was going to happen. This wasn't pre-planned. And he kind of is a little awkward at the beginning. And then watch him just settle into it and then just launch.
I know there's a little bit of a delay. Can you hear us? And what is your question for the senator?
Well, I can hear you, Chris, and I do have a question, and I think it'll be quite an interesting one. The answer should be easy. How brilliant is Donald J. Trump?
Take your time. Think about it.
Well, first of all, sir, this is supposed to be undecided voters. I would hope that I have your vote, of all people. But here's first of all, sir, of course, you're very brilliant, and we both agree. We both agree that it's important to have very smart people running our government. But here's the.
I was thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting myself in JD's shoes. And I've been picked to be the vice president, which is obviously, he's very qualified for it, but he's also very aware of, just how not qualified for it he is. So you can tell he takes his role very seriously. And, I mean, he's like a millennial dude that is kind of trying to play this part, but also just being himself. So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, if Donald Trump calls me in here, or calls here to talk to me, and now I'm on I have to have a good performance, because this is already going to be a viral thing. It's going to be clipped relentlessly. So what are the things that I say to make him look good, and also to make myself look good, and not stumble and kind of be awkward? But what would be the thing you cannot not say? You can't just completely ignore the question and not reply to it at all. You have to say, yes, of course, sir. You're very, very brilliant. You kind of play along with the game. Because if he just ignored it and didn't say anything at all, then he'd be like, dude, how could you not at least answer the question? Even if it's a joke question, you at least have to answer the question. So he does answer it, but it's kind of a little awkward. Yeah, first of all, sir, you're very brilliant. Your brilliance is understated. You're just amazing. But then he segues it.
Thing about President Trump that aside of you, sir, if you'll forgive me for telling this story that I think often people don't see. And of course, I got my beautiful wife here in the front row. And one of my favorite moments with President Trump is we were hosting an event for him near our home in Cincinnati a few months ago. And of course, my wife was a little bit nervous to really, talk to the president of the United States. And he asked her, what do you think about your husband being in public service? And she gives, if you know my wife, a very diplomatic answer. Sir, he really cares about the people of Ohio. He's thrilled to be able to serve them, and I'm happy to support him however I can. And President Trump chuckles and goes, yeah, my wife hates it too. and the thing that it did is it just immediately broke the barrier. And it wasn't the former president. It was just a person talking to my wife. And I think you guys were able to have a nice conversation. But
now watch him land the plane.
That ability to relate to anybody in any environment, I think that's the true brilliance of Donald J. Trump.
That's very nice, and I appreciate it.
This is not a strength for J.D. Vance. This is not something that really comes naturally to him. He's good. He can do it. And he's getting better. This is one of the big things. Like when I first saw him at the RNC convention, and I saw his speech. You could tell he was reading a teleprompter. It was kind of awkward. He stumbled a few times. At one point, he just had to stop mid-sentence and start over again. But then at one point, it looked like he either just got off the teleprompter or the teleprompter broke or something, and he sort of was like, and just started telling a story about his, it was his mom or maybe it was his grandma. I think it was a story about his grandma. And then he was just super natural and organic and fun and everything flowed. He was real down to earth. And then he got back onto the teleprompter again, and it was kind of a little wooden and awkward. So like he does really well the less formal the situation is. Remember when he was like ordering donuts or whatever, and he's like, I don't know, whatever works. Just whatever makes sense, which is really kind of a goofy thing to tell someone when you're ordering donuts. But he's like, I got to do the whole thing. All right, yeah, look at me, I'm getting donuts. Woohoo! But when sitting down talking to Theo Vaughn or the other different interviews that he's done, he gets really natural and sat in, and he can talk at length about shallow day-to-day conversation stuff, but he can also really get going into the nitty-gritty on a lot of different things. He is just our guy through and through. He is the most our guy president or most our guy political office holder that we've ever had. And he's the frickin' vice president. All right, so I got some stuff here on some fraud that has been uncovered. Natalie Winters says, breaking, fraudulent mail-in ballots were caught by election officials in Colorado.
Received a notice and alerted the clerk's office to fraud. Another voter contacted the office after learning from the state's ballot tracking system that their ballot had been turned in by someone else. Election officials began comparing signatures and noted some of them appeared to be signed by the same person. They launched an investigation, but not before 3 of the stolen ballots had already been counted. Those ballots cannot be retrieved, and the votes will count, but the 3 voters will receive new ballots.
Okay, hold on. So these votes were found that had been cast. They can't be retrieved and uncast. So the voters who did not vote, but who were voted on behalf of, are given ballots to actually vote. How do we possibly wind up in a place where this is the recourse? Like if I'm one of those voters, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess now my vote can cancel out the fake one. But you've just deprived them of the right to vote. Like, so now those people are actually casting a ballot that the only reason that it's meaningful is that it's negating a fake one. This is preposterous that in 2024, a ostensibly civilized country would be running anything like this in the age of the internet. This is one of the reasons, like this sort of thing, I don't know how you really repair all of this. I don't know how you restore faith in elections in a near-term sort of way. The only possible conceivable way that there could be any sort of faith returned to at least federal elections would be if Trump is elected. And even that is going to be, it's going to destroy the faith for a lot of people. This is why a lot of us have been saying that this is probably the last election that we ever have. Stormy went so far as to say this is the last time we'll even go through the ritual. Like, this is the last time that there will be elections like this, no matter what the outcome is. I won't like counter signal that. I don't disagree. I just can't even wrap my mind around how that would play out. I can't even begin to game that whole thing out. Listen to what this egghead here says right after that sentence. So listen to the connection between her last sentences and then what he says.
Had already been counted. Those ballots cannot be retrieved, and the votes will count, but the 3 voters will receive new ballots.
This shows the resiliency of our process here in Colorado, that if somebody tries to do nefarious things, it will be discovered through our processes.
Mesa County.
These people, can he even believe that, what he's saying? Like, is there any ounce of heart behind that? Or is it just reading off whatever statement has been prepared for him to say? This is proof of how great our system is. This complete clusterfuck of a situation is just proof of how great it is. Oh, man. Welcome to our new member of the Discord. I won't air you out because I don't know if you would necessarily want to be mentioned. But I do see that Penis Inspector is on the job. Well, at least Penis Inspector has replied. Which is one thing I haven't mentioned on the show before. We have a guy whose designated responsibility, his name even, in Discord is Penis Inspector. And as soon as you join, you must submit yourself to an inspection. Penis Inspector will be in contact with you to schedule your inspection. Another one. The Lancaster County Board of Elections just announced they've uncovered a major voting fraud scheme in Pennsylvania. But I thought Democrats said voter fraud was a hoax. Here's one point I wanted to take away from this. Part of my thesis, that other people have said this as well, like part of my thesis here is that the way the voter fraud conversation is going to go is it's going to get turned around. And this is one of the things they're going to saddle Trump with, is alleging that he was illegitimately elected through voter fraud. But note what that would mean. It means in the space of 4 years, the mainstream narrative has gone from it's not a concern, you don't ever have to worry about it, it never happens, to it becomes like a core thesis for them. We've seen this many times. You can almost start predicting these sorts of things. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see a January 6th equivalent thing happening from the other direction, maybe even on January 6th. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. But you can start seeing the way the narrative starts off on one side, and then it just gets transmogrified into the opposite. Maybe the most glaring example of this of all time was COVID. At the very beginning of COVID, remember when Nancy Pelosi was out like, oh, this isn't a big deal. This is Trump scaremongering about just his race war against the Chinese. Go down into Chinatown. Go hug a Chinese person. And like 2 weeks later, it was, lockdown! This virus is killing everyone. And then it was, it was Trump wanting to lock down as totalitarian and evil and racist to Trump isn't locking down enough. So I think we're going to get the exact same thing with voter fraud. Voter fraud doesn't happen. There's no one doing voter fraud. There are no mass campaigns, no voter fraud organizations. To look at all the voter fraud organizations for the Republicans. That's the only reason Trump was elected. Shout out to Paul Fahrenheit in the chat. $1.99 super chat. He says, no way this one gets stolen. Yes. It's not going to be stolen. Trump is going to be elected. Trump will be the next president. The only question is how and through what means and what sort of fallout is there going to be from it. There's so much lining up now, and I've got several other things to get through in the stack today, including a blog post from a good friend of the show, Bennett's Phylactery, who identifies the character of the regime precisely. According to the board, up to 2,500 fraudulent voter registration applications were dropped off in 2 batches shortly before the deadline. So 2,500 fraudulent registration applications brought up in 2 batches right before the deadline. They just try to sneak them in there at the last second. Authorities believe an organization is behind this fraud, and the district attorney has vowed to investigate and hold them responsible. People must be jailed for this. So here's the announcement.
Chairman of the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners and also the chairman of the Lancaster County Board of Elections. As we, the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Elections, have said throughout this entire election cycle and in years prior, Lancaster County runs each election with the principles of integrity, veracity, and transparency. It is our duty as elected leaders of this county conduct elections that the voters can feel confident in. We take that role seriously and so do the hardworking staff in the elections office and our volunteers. Through training and expertise, it is their work and the work of hundreds of volunteers that allows us to conduct elections that are safe, secure, and allow every eligible voter to legally cast their ballot. The staff takes seriously all the principles I just outlined and all facets of our election, from voter registration to the publishing of results and all aspects in between. It is through their diligence that our staff uncovered apparent incidents of attempted voter registration fraud here in Lancaster County. Through the staff's normal review process, as many as 2,500 completed voter registration forms are being researched for potential fraud stemming from 2 separate drop batches by individuals. At that time, staff contacted the district attorney's office and members of the Board of Elections. Applications in these batches are going through an extensive multi-step review process, including the district attorney's office, for further investigation as warranted. This includes issues of duplicate handwriting matching other voter registration forms in the batches, inconsistent signatures with what is on the file in the SURE system, because some of these or many of these are duplicates, unverifiable and or accurate addresses, and inaccurate driver's license or social security number verification. We have an obligation under the election code, just not only that, but a moral obligation to investigate any matters of potential fraud. Applications that have gone through this extensive review and investigative process and are not deemed to be fraudulent are being processed. I want to stress this. No eligible voter will be turned away. We'll also add that the Commonwealth, Department of State, and the Attorney General Office has been notified of this matter. We've called this press conference today to share this information with voters and with all the views that people can feel confident in the security of Lancaster County's elections, and that we take these matters seriously. As we have said previously, and I just mentioned, elections here, we do it with integrity, veracity, and transparency. And here in Pennsylvania, elections have become more complex as we have been conducting now for at least a couple weeks, 3 different types of elections simultaneously. Adding this challenging matter on top of this adds to that task. So on behalf of the board, I want to sincerely thank Krista Miller, the Chief Clerk of the Elections Board and Voter Registrations Commission, her staff and volunteers for their hard work, dedication, diligence, and perseverance, particularly in the face of recent false and misleading statements regarding aspects of their work. I also want to thank Larry George and the board.
Okay, so I got one other video here related to this, and then I'll add a little bit of commentary. This is from Ryan Sexton, America First, from Early Vote Action, regional captain, retired Army vet. Update from the press conference. Speed this up just a wee.
Hey guys, Ryan with Early Vote Action here. I just left the Lancaster County Commissioners press conference in regards to the potential voter registration fraud. Over the days of Friday and Monday being the deadline, they did encounter a few individuals coming in to drop off 2 separate batches totaling 2,500 voter registration forms. The voter registration staff here at the Board of Elections is very vigilant at their job. They were able to take notice to quite a few different issues, mostly being these voters were already registered to vote, so they were duplicates, they were inaccurate signatures, addresses, dates of birth, Social Security, the last four, and driver's license numbers. After doing so, they contacted the district attorney's office to start their investigation. Right now, they are looking at one, possibly two organizations that have been doing this. They have been individuals just walking up to folks on the sidewalks, at festivals, things like that. So I automatically went to Job Corps because I personally had that issue, along with Alice Ducart, Noah from White from Turning Point. We all had seen that happen at a few different locations. Currently no more to give out as far as that investigation goes. I will note that the one commissioner did state that as of tonight, closing of business at 5 p.m., all voter registration applications in Lancaster County, for the exception of the fraudulent ones, will be processed and completed. So that is wonderful news out of Lancaster County. Great job by the staff here at the County Board of Elections. They are wonderful people. I've had an opportunity to work with them on various occasions. So hats off to them for doing an amazing job. Stay tuned for more updates. As soon as I get them, I will post them. All right, thanks very much, folks. And remember, get out there, vote early. You have a few days left to do so. If you don't want to vote early, that's okay. You can still drop off your mail-in ballot in person. We are suggesting that you avoid the mail system, being this close to the election. All right, thanks very much, folks. Have a great day, and take care.
Vote early and vote often. That's what I say. So a couple thoughts from this. First one, I guess an interesting data point, is that for whatever it's worth, we have in Pennsylvania, the county and local officials at least appearing to try to be very vigilant against voter fraud. And from what this guy is saying, he's on the ground, he's talking to them, like these are good, sincere people who genuinely want to prevent voter fraud. I think that's a narrative violation. The idea that there might be local infrastructure that's actually working to prevent voter fraud. Now, that's not to say that, all is saved and now voter fraud can't happen. Like, obviously, it still can. And that brings me to the second data point, is that what I suspect is going to happen, and we're seeing a dry run for it now, is when the voter fraud does show up, the narrative is going to be that it's Republican voter fraud. That these are Republican organizations that are engaging in voter fraud on behalf of Trump. Which further means at least two separate individuals now that I can think of are going to fall under the category of Trump, Elon, probably David Sachs, in getting both barrels to whatever degree the regime has barrels left to point, a la Trump and Giuliani. Scott Presler and Charlie Kirk are going to be in. They're probably going to be coming after them either way, I would imagine. Whether or not they wind up in a cell alongside Elon really depends on the outcome of the election. But if you want something to add to your prayer list, add Scott Presler and Charlie Kirk. Because the libs have been all over today saying that this is Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This is where Scott Presler has been explicitly working, and they're saying that this is Scott Presler. And all the MAGA people are going to be so surprised when they find out who it is. They're trying to meme that into existence. So Scott Presler says, statement on Lancaster. It's been brought to my attention that Lancaster County has uncovered a voter registration fraud operation. According to the report, the majority of those 2,500 voter registration applications were turned in at or near the deadline and are dated August 15th. I can unequivocally state that this has nothing to do with early vote action. Our staff turn in voter registration forms as we register voters. The most forms we've ever turned in at one time was 400 in Luzerne County right before we flipped it from blue to red. At a recent Luzerne County BOE, what is BOE? Board of Education? Board of Elections? Probably Board of Elections meeting. The manager revealed that an individual turned in a large quantity of forms on the deadline that were dated back to June. This had no connection to early vote action either. This batch should also be reviewed. I'm proud that our organization has registered tens of thousands of new Pennsylvania voters this cycle. The reason why Democrats are attacking us is because we're effective. They're also attacking us because their voter registration advantage is the lowest it's been in 50 years, and their mail-in ballot firewall is severely lagging. Furthermore, we've made a concerted effort to register the Amish to vote in Lancaster, a group that Democrat Governor Shapiro and the Department of Agriculture is waging a war against. We look forward to hearing the results of this investigation and who is responsible. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Democrat organization. In the meantime, vote early, vote by mail, and let's deliver Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. Let's go. You're going to prison, Scott. I would be very popular. George says this same scheme was caught in Muskegon, Michigan in the 2020 election, led by a Democrat organization called GBI Strategies. They delivered almost 10,000 fraudulent voter registrations in just Muskegon and thousands more in other Michigan cities that actually got approved. Democrats cheat, Republicans don't. The Amish will help Trump overcome fraud and take Lancaster. And then some good boomer slop in here. Keep pushing, Scott. So our great God Emperor has weighed in again. Cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely, because I know better than most the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny. And when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. We cannot let our country further devolve into a third world nation, and we won't. Please beware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels, unfortunately, never seen before in our country. That, unfortunately, is so Trumpian. Yeah, skullduggery is really an underused word. I love that he's mainstreaming skullduggery again. So this is the sort of thing that the more indicators there are of Trump's inevitability, the more individual people are going to start thinking twice about how much they want to be involved in all of this, how much they want to run cover for this. Because here's the thing about the whole fortification machine. You read that Time magazine piece. If you haven't, we have an episode on the channel. Go back a little ways, talking about how the election was fortified. They detailed it to the greatest degree how they did it, and it was a complex organization with tons and tons of moving parts, which is a major matter of will and coordination and funding that's all breaking down. So the more inevitable Trump becomes, the harder it is to make that machine whir. Now, they've been working that machine for a long time, so they can fall off pretty far from where they were before and still cause problems. And this is why I still believe, even though my expectation of a Trump landslide election night victory has increased significantly, I still believe it's more likely that this descends into lawfare about voter fraud. I think either way, there's going to be lots of lawfare. The question is whether it's going to be a side issue, and because there's a certain point where the calculus for the managerial demons, where the calculus for them changes from we need to push all these voter fraud cases to holy shit, let's get away from it as much as possible because none of us wants to be affiliated with it. Because he's going out of his way and he's naming lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. So this isn't just like a general warning. This is a specific warning. Will he follow through on it? Will he have the people there to follow through on it? I think the odds are very good, in fact. Because I think the alternative of like the complete breakdown of federal government legitimacy is much worse. But yeah, I still think there's going to be lots of lawfare, and the question is whether lots of lawfare about voter fraud, and the question is going to be whether it's a lesser issue or a predominant issue that really delays things. And right now, I still land on the side of he's going to win, but there's going to be lawfare that delays things. Yes, Lasha says the fact that they openly bragged about fortifying the 2020 showed how complete they believed their victory was. Right. And it's funny, if they never do that, like that piece has become foundational for everyone searching out the different organizations and seeing how they function. If they never released that piece, it would have taken people a lot longer to put everything together. they can't help but destroy their own legitimacy. The voter fraud never happens, bros. Will be the first to cry voter fraud. Yeah. Another related story. Glenn Youngkin, let's be clear about what just happened. Only 11 days before a presidential election, a federal judge ordered Virginia to reinstate over 1,500 individuals who self-identified themselves as non-citizens back onto the voter rolls. This is a Virginia law. It says almost all of these individuals had previously presented immigration documents confirming their non-citizen status, a fact recently verified by federal authorities. This is a Virginia law passed in 2006, signed by then-Governor Tim Kaine, that mandates certain procedures to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls with safeguards in place to affirm citizenship before removal, and the ultimate fail-safe of same-day registration for U.S. citizens to cast a provisional ballot. This law has been applied in every presidential election by Republicans and Democrats since enacted 18 years ago. Virginia will immediately petition the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals and, if necessary, the U.S. Supreme Court for an emergency stay of the injunction. And so it begins. So there's a federal judge who is actually demanding that they break this law that was passed in 2006 and signed by then-Governor Tim Kaine, who you might know as the VP candidate for Hillary. And this has caught the attention of many people, but in particular, one here. Eric Prince says this is the Biden-appointed federal judge forcing Virginia to reinstate non-citizens as voters in Virginia. This is criminal judicial tyranny. This must not stand. At Glenn Youngkin. Keep fighting. Hold true to your oath of office for Virginia and to the motto on the state flag, Sic Semper Tyrannis. This is the judge. Great shock. Patricia Tolliver Giles, United States District Judge of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. She served as Assistant United States Attorney in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia from 2003 to 2021, then became a judge. And here is where Glenn Youngkin gets to prove himself as governor of Virginia. Is he going to take up the DeSantis mantle? Is he going to send back the Andrew Jackson line? That's nice. Now enforce it. Of course, the way to go through this is to appeal it. And so that's what they're doing. But I don't expect this to go... I don't expect this to just go away. I think this is going to spin up into a big deal. And it also indicates the state of Virginia. And I don't mean the state of Virginia. I mean the current state of Virginia. I'm still seeing all the the major official pollsters and everything are including it as an easy blue. But the better, less prominent pollsters have all been saying that Virginia is up for grabs. And I think the fact that Youngkin is the governor there makes it even more likely. Because Youngkin wants a feather in the cap. I think that Virginia is absolutely up for grabs. And this just makes me think so even more. So some more polling ballot information from Victor Jokes. He says, take a deeper look at Nevada and what it could mean for the rest of the country. D's aren't showing up for Kamala. If that happens around the country, the missing red wave of 2022 could show up in 2024 as a tsunami. These are the in-person early voting stats for 2024 compared to 2020. R turnout is down, but D turnout has all but disappeared, and D mail is way down. So, from Clark County, in person, on day 6 in 2020, there was 9,045 Democrats. 2024, it's down almost 2,500. Republicans are down 1,500. Total is 4,500. So total numbers are down for day 6. Washoe, Democrats are up slightly. Republicans are up slightly more. But look at the turnout relative to the total Republican turnout versus the total Democrat turnout. And then statewide, Democrats are down 2,600 from 2020. Republicans are down 1,600. But Republicans are over 2 times more represented. This is a trend that, as I've been following these guys, this is a trend that's persisting throughout a lot of these swing states, and the swing states are much more than the standard 7 or so. The swing state characterization, I believe, needs to be extended out to New Hampshire, Minnesota, Michigan, New Mexico, in addition to Arizona and Nevada and Georgia and Pennsylvania and North Carolina. There's just really low Democrat enthusiasm. This is a trend that's showing up all over the place. It's even showing up in New York. Republicans are poised to make major gains in New York. It's still solidly Democrat, but it's going from like plus 30 to like plus 10. And there was another, I just remembered just before I got started, there was another thing I threw in the bookmarks here that's relevant. Let me pull that up real quick. Speaking of New York Times, Rich Barris said Harris is actually polling worse with women than Biden in the New York Times versus 2020. Trump gained 6 points among women and Harris fell 5 points, so a net 11-point swing among women to Trump. And here's what CNN is talking about. They have suggested that Trump has a real shot at winning the national popular vote. Here's some information on that.
Trump may finally get his great white whale. Harris versus Trump national margin. You mentioned that New York Times poll, a tie. That's actually right in the middle of the spectrum when we're talking about recent polling data. You don't have to look very far to find Donald Trump ahead nationally. He was up by 2 points in the CNBC poll, up by 3 in the Wall Street Journal poll. Very close races within the margin of error. But then the same thing on the other side, right? You have Harris up by 3 points according to Ipsos. The Say 24 YouGov poll, it's a bunch of academics, also has Harris up by 3. But the bottom line is, with the popular vote, which we really haven't focused upon, a very, very tight race, John. Fact is, Donald Trump is very much in a position he could win the popular vote, which, of course, is something he would absolutely love to do.
And would be something very different than we have seen compared to last time and the polling compared to last time.
Exactly right. So I went back through the time machine, all right? I went back through the time machine.
The time machine.
Where were the past 2 races at this point in the campaign? Look, Harris in the average poll right now is up by 1, well within the margin of error. You go back 4 years ago, Joe Biden was well ahead of Donald Trump in the national popular vote polls. He was up by 9. Even Hillary Clinton was up by 6 points. So now Donald Trump's in a position he really hasn't been before at this point in the campaign where he could truly compete, and we can truly say that the popular vote at this point is way too close to call. Of course, this is only going back 8 years. I wanted to jump even further back in my time machine to get an understanding. Hey, I haven't heard about a Republican potentially winning the popular vote in a while. And it turns out a Republican winning the popular vote, it hasn't happened since 2004 in George W. Bush defeating John Kerry. And that's only the one time that it has happened. In fact, you have to go all the way back to 1988 to find another one when it was George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, winning the popular vote over Michael Dukakis. So the fact that the polls right now are so close, John, the fact that Donald Trump has a legitimate shot of winning the popular vote is something I think a lot of folks, including in my line of work, really didn't think could possibly happen when Donald Trump was running last time around. He could make history, not just for Donald Trump, for a Republican candidate as well.
Now, there are some reasons for this, and I think Democrats' heads are all exploding out there watching this right now. There are some reasons for this.
Think about the like average audience that this is like who in their mind they're talking to, because they're talking to a bunch of, I don't know, like junior high people, maybe younger than that.
This, which you're going to explain, but also begin to raise the possibility that we could see the reverse. We could see the reverse of things we've seen where a Republican wins the popular vote, but there's a chance for the Democrat to win the Electoral College.
Yeah, part of my job is to warn our viewers on either side of the aisle of an event that may occur that they don't necessarily like, and Donald Trump winning the popular vote could absolutely happen. You might as well wrap your minds around it now, folks, if you don't like Donald Trump. But on the flip side of that, a potentially good sign for Democrats is, why is Donald Trump doing so well in the popular vote polls? You can dig down into the state level polling and you can see that Donald Trump is doing particularly well in California, Florida, New York, and Texas. Of course, none of these states are really on the board at this point, so Donald Trump may end up gaining in the national popular vote polls, but actually he's wasting votes, which could in fact lead to a case where Kamala Harris could sneak by in the Electoral College by sweeping those Great Lake battleground states, which at this point are way too close to call, John.
That's right. It'd be interesting to see then if all that talk about Electoral College reform takes on a bit of a new light.
It may. In 2000, remember, folks thought that Al Gore would win the Electoral College and lose in the popular vote. It turns out they were all wrong.
All right, there you have it. Okay.
It's still very interesting to see CNN actually managing to come off as relatively impartial. Like, you can still tell that they're not, but they're really working at it. They're really trying to redeem themselves in the estimation of who they know is incoming. Here's a little bit more from them talking about breaking down these possibilities regarding the Electoral College. Whoop. Make sure I share the screen here.
We have been talking about the idea that there's going to be a historically close election. I think I might have said it on this particular program, but in fact, will the winner get at least 300 electoral votes? The answer is majority yes.
Yeah, Colin Rosh says, not a damn chance he wins popular and doesn't win. Yeah, so I guess I should address that. What the guy said is basically, well, the reason why Trump could win the popular vote, but she could still win the Electoral College, would be that Trump would really overperform in Texas, Florida, New York, and California. So he'd get lots of extra votes, but it wouldn't change the Electoral College landscape. And so it's possible. But this is midwit tier stuff. This is real desperate cope type stuff. Because if Trump wildly overperforms in Texas and Florida and New York and California, that means he's going to wildly overperform in all of the other states as well. So there is no world in which he suffers in the so-called swing states, but like really outperforms in Texas and California and New York and Florida. These things just don't happen. You can try to parse them out and imagine these separate worlds. Oh yeah, it's theoretically possible that he could just do really, really well in those states, but then for whatever reason he does really poorly in the other ones. No, it doesn't work that way. This is part of the reason why, like, if Minnesota is starting to look like it's more of a toss-up, that's a really strong indicator that all of the other blue wall states and North Carolina and Georgia and Arizona and New Mexico and Nevada are basically in the Trump bag already. Because Minnesota has historically been so much more to the left of all of those others that if Minnesota has moved to the right so much that it's in the toss-up category, all the rest of them will have moved right as well. 1988.
There's a majority.
So this is interesting. Will the 2024 winner get 300 plus electoral votes? According to an aggregate of forecast models, there's a 60% chance that yes, the winner gets more than 300 electoral votes. Now, how could this possibly be the case? How could it be very, very close, and yet there's a greater than not chance of one of them getting more than 300 electoral votes? Well, it would be if lots of the toss-up states all go one way.
Yes, 60% chance that the winner of this election gets at least 300 electoral votes versus just a 40% chance that the winner ends up getting less than 300 electoral votes. So for all the talk that we've had about this election being historically close, which it is, chances are the winner will still actually score a relative blowout in the Electoral College.
Oh my God, you're making my hair hurt. Boom. How can it be that it's
this is
so
like
close,
Sesame Street,
but yet still more likely than not that it's a fairly big victory in the Electoral College?
Yeah, so let's take a look at that polling average, all right? So if you look across the 7 key swing states, the 7 closest states, in all of them, the margin right now is under 2 points, But keep in mind, polling ain't perfect, my dear friends. On average, since 1972, in the battleground
1972.
the average error in the key swing states is 3.4 points. So if all of the battleground states go in one direction, you can end up with a map like this.
So 3.4 points is the margin of error in these key swing states. And that margin of error is overwhelmingly to the left. So what this means is, we've touched on this in the show in the past, but what this means is that all of these swing states that you see where the polling is like even or Kamala +1, Kamala +2, those are strong signals for Trump because of the methodology of the polls lends itself to naturally be biased, typically somewhere between like 3 and 6% or 3 and 6 points toward Kamala. So when you see like the national numbers that are coming out. I think Wall Street Journal just had one. CBS had one, I think, recently. There's some of these final national polls have come out that show it on the popular vote being like a dead heat, or like Kamala +1 or Kamala +2. Those are all really strong Trump signals, because you apply that 3.4 margin of error, and generally speaking, you're pulling it into the red.
Kamala Harris, where she wins all the key Great Lake battleground states, wins North Carolina, wins Georgia, wins Arizona, wins Nevada, and she gets to...
There is virtually no way this could conceivably happen. The only way this could possibly happen is with maxed out, completely streamlined, sophisticated rigging operations operating in coordination in all of these states all at the same time, which is more than what happened in 2020. That's what it would take to pull this off. There's no possible way that it can happen.
319.
That's even better than Biden did.
That's even better than Biden did. Of course, it could go in the other direction, whereby Trump wins all the key Great Lake battleground states, North Carolina.
Now, this is much more likely. I don't think that I'm not going to say it's absolutely going to happen. I'm much more confident that the other one's not going to. This one's much more likely. And if Trump does wind up with a landslide, it's going to be because, note here, he's not including Virginia. He's not including New Hampshire. He's not including Maine. He's not including Minnesota. And all of these and New Mexico are also looking like they're more and more up for grabs.
Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, and he gets to 312 electoral
And
votes.
that's even better than Trump did in 2016.
Exactly right. So based upon what we see with the average polling error and how close the states are at this point, if all of the states move in one direction, one of these candidates could score a relative blow in the Electoral College, win 300-plus electoral votes.
What does history tell us about the possibility of all these states moving in one direction?
History tells us that it is more likely than not that all of the swing state polling errors would move in one direction. So in 2012, 92% of the states moved in Obama's direction. That is, the polls underdid Obama. In 2016, 83% of the swing states moved together because the polls underdid Donald Trump. Of course, we all remember that. And how about in 2020? 100% of the swing state polling averages underestimated Donald Trump, and so he did better than a lot of folks thought. So this time around, don't be surprised if the swing state polls, when they underestimate one candidate, they underestimate all of them in the states, and that would lead to a relative electoral college blowout with one of the candidates winning at least 300 electoral
And Harry,
votes.
finally, what did you learn about the word underdid?
It is a real word. It is a real word. I underdid my dictionary growing up, and I found out that I still have words that I need to learn.
There you go. Harry Henton, thank you very much. News you can use. Kate?
It truly is Sesame Street. Look at this. So the last three major elections here, 92%, 83%, and 100%. So all the key swing states all moved in the same direction, and were all underestimated by the polling in the same direction. So what can we assume? This isn't like small numbers, 92, 83, and 100%. So we can likely assume that all the key swing states are all underestimating Trump again. It's basically impossible, honestly, to poll for Trump support. If there was maybe another year or two, then it might actually be more feasible, but it's still really difficult to poll for Trump support because the majority of people who are going to vote for Trump, number one, aren't going to respond to a poll, and number two, they're not even going to be accessed by it because the polls aren't even there to get them because of their media consumption habits. So it's very difficult. There's just, by doing a poll, period, you're basically getting an anti-Trump bias sample, even before you account for the fact that the majority of the polls explicitly oversample Democrats. And here's one last clip on polling, early voting data, and a seething George Slopadopoulos.
Check this out. In 2020, Republicans were only 33% of early voters. Now it is up to 40%.
So this is Nevada, early vote breakdown. 2020, Republicans were 33% of early votes. Now they're 40%.
So in this big state with the...
So there's a 7% jump for Republicans. There was a 9%, there's a 9% decrease for Democrats. So Democrat turnout, this is a trend that's consistent across all the states now. The Democrat turnout is depressed.
Big Latino population, a whole lot of union members, some warning signs, at least early on in early voting for Democrats, George.
And Rick, Generals John Kelly, Mark Milley have called Donald Trump a fascist. Kamala Harris agrees. And we have some polling on that.
Check this out.
Please help me cope. All right, so now let's talk about some political betting. Do me a favor, folks, if you appreciate what you're watching, hit the like button. We got 77. We're going to make it. We're going to make it to 100 in this episode while we're live. We got 116 watching, 77 likes. Please hit the like button. And also, if you're enjoying this, please send a super chat. Go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled and toss a few dollars this way. I have thoroughly demonetized this stream by playing all of these CNN and ABC clips and the Freebird song earlier. There's no way I'm going to get the note. I know it. I'm going to get the notification immediately when the stream is over that the stream has been demonetized and cannot be monetized and may even be blocked in some areas, most likely Russia and Belarus. So if you like what you're watching, please, a little bit of money support would be great. Maxim Lott says, excellent article by Peter Cordy, DC Examiner, really going into the details of recent betting odds trends and featuring quotes and graphs from me. So let's give her a read. It's from Washington Examiner. Who is winning the election? Expert reveals why betting odds are so telling. Well over $500 million were bet on the 2020 election, and that number has surged in 2024. Just under 2 weeks out, more than $2.3 billion have been bet on the 2024 presidential election on Polymarket alone. This raises the question, what is election betting, and do betting odds reflect actual probability? Maxim Lott, founder of electionbettingodds.com, explained to the Washington Examiner why betting odds are more predictive than the polls, and revealed the turning point that jump-started former President Donald Trump's rise in the election odds and polling. The betting odds are more reliable because people have to put their money where their mouths are, Lott said. That makes most people think twice and to be more careful before they weigh in about who will actually win. Predicting the future. How hard is it? Having tracked hundreds of races since 2015, Lott affirmed, quote, the betting odds have a great track record. He explained that, quote, specifically candidates who were given a certain percent chance of winning actually won approximately that percentage of the time. For example, the graph below shows that candidates who were given a 70 to 80% chance actually won about 75% of the time. Shout out to QWERTY ZZ7, $10 Canadian. We'll take it. We'll take your Leaf bucks. He says not going to push the like button. Well, that's fair. I will take $10, even Canadian. I will take $10 over a like. Between 2016 and 2022, election betting odds tracked 807 different candidates' chances across a number of elections. They found that if bettors gave a candidate between a 90 and 100% chance to win, that candidate won 99.4% of the time. Candidates given between an 80 and 90% chance won 93.8% of the time. Between 70 and 80, that drops to 74.4. Between 60 and 70, it's 68.8. Between 50 and 60, it's 56. Between 40 and 50, it's 44. Between 30 and 40, it's 34.9. Between 20 and 30, it's 23.8. Between 10 and 20, it's 4.5. And between 0 and 10, it's 1%. According to the data, the betting odds are extremely efficient at predicting the correct probability that a candidate will win. There is, however, an underdog bias present in races where one candidate is heavily favored over the other. This bias produces a higher predicted chance of upset in some races that are more or less decided before Election Day. Lott's research has also found that election betting odds have a slight lean toward Democratic candidates, but less so than 538's model does. Both tend to be more surprised when a Republican wins. Holy crap! From Andrew, politically Catholic in the chat, breaking Fifth Circuit rules that ballots must arrive by Election Day, overriding state laws that allow later deadlines. Talk about an earthquake, the voter fraud machine just went up in smoke. Dang! Ballots must arrive by Election Day. That's a big change. This is like as long as I can remember, I think my first couple of elections, I think I probably sent my ballot in after the election. I voted absentee in the first three federal elections that I voted in. Man. How could you guys ever doubt? I know that the astrolabians never doubt. No one's black-pilled here. In total, 88.9% of candidates favored in the election betting odds won out of the 807 tracked. Only 3 betting underdogs have won the presidential election since the 1940s, and 2 were only slight underdogs. JFK won at plus 110, Carter won at plus 100, but Trump won in 2016 despite plus 375 odds. Why bettors get it right and likely voters get it wrong? In 2020, the polling data found that most likely voters thought Trump would win the election until the very beginning of October, at which point they slightly favored President Joe Biden. Yet Biden led in the polls by nearly 10 percentage points from July to Election Day. The bettors, on the other hand, were with Biden the whole time and with a relatively high degree of certainty. The likely voters asked in polls who they believe will win the election, regardless of preference, have nothing to lose for being wrong. Bettors, contrarily, quote, have to put their money where their mouths are. Lott said, quote, likely voters who are surveyed on the phone are just giving their gut impressions, which could be based on anything. Bettors have their gut impressions too, but are additionally looking at polling, trends, statistical models, early vote data, and news events which might make a difference, like a candidate blunder or an escalation in the war in the Middle East. Bettors do get it wrong sometimes, most notably in 2016 when Trump shocked the world and defeated Hillary Clinton. Lott explained, quote, while the bettors got it wrong, every other forecaster also got it wrong, and usually by much more. The bettors gave Trump a 20% chance on election morning, while the New York Times gave him 15%, the Daily Kos gave him 8%, the Huffington Post gave him just 2%, and Princeton Election Consortium gave him less than 1%, he said. Partly from those embarrassments, all those forecasters have since given up trying to statistically predict elections in advance. He explained that bettors failed to predict his win, despite being more attuned to his chances than most experts, because, quote, Trump was way down in the polls, and Trump running for president was uncharted territory. This time around, they are certainly not discounting his chances. After 2016, Lott said, bettors certainly became more open to the idea that outsiders, non-politicians, and populists might win major elections. Statistically speaking, the underdogs should win some of the time, Lott added. If the bettors give a 20% chance of winning in 5 different elections, it means that out of those 5, the underdog should win 1. Statistics. A turning point. Public appearances shift the paradigm. Public appearances have coincided with many of the biggest election betting odds shifts this election cycle. Biden's campaign was essentially deemed a lost cause by bettors after his June debate performance, which prompted his ouster from the Democratic ticket. In fact, bettors gave Vice President Kamala Harris a higher probability of winning before she was even promoted. When asked if the election betting markets react too harshly following notable public appearances, Lott said, I think they're just as reactive as they should be, and pointed to 3 major public appearance shifts that he has followed. The first shift came from the June 27 Biden-Trump debate. Biden's odds plunged from 36% to 24% that evening, an enormous drop, he said. I felt it must be too big. The bettors were right. The second shift came after the September 10 Trump-Harris debate. Harris rose about 5 points that night from 47 to 52%, Lott said. Bettors predicted shift was reflected in a polling shift toward Harris over the following couple of weeks, so I'd say that proved them right. The third shift came after the October 1 vice presidential debate, which he says bettors actually underreacted. Quote, bettors gave the edge to Vance and over the next day raised Trump's odds of winning by about 1 point, he said. They may have underestimated the impact of the debate as it marked a turning point at which Trump started gaining in the polls and odds, a trend that has continued up through today. The Washington Examiner has reported on how other appearances have affected the odds following the vice presidential debate, including when Harris's odds fell by 3.1 points after her 60 Minutes interview was released on October 7, and when her odds dropped another 2.6 points following her October 16th Fox News interview. Both performances drew criticism from Republicans and Democrats alike. Still time for an October surprise. As things stand, the 2024 election betting odds paint an optimistic picture for Republicans if they're proven right. Bettors give Trump a 60% chance to win the presidency. They give Republicans a 51% chance at a House majority, and they give the GOP an 84% chance at a Senate majority. So the trifecta is on the table. If the candidates continue to campaign as they are now, I and the markets expect Trump to be favored going into Election Day, Lott predicted. But he said that there is still time for an October surprise or something shocking to happen. If there is going to be an October surprise, it will likely come after a notable public appearance or major world event. Both Trump and Harris have a number of appearances on the docket over the next 2 weeks, while Israel is gearing up for a lethal retaliatory strike on Iran for its October 1 missile attack. Republicans are now predicted to have a 52 to 48 Senate majority by the betting odds. However, 3 races where GOP underdogs have a realistic shot include Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. All three Democratic favorites have seen their odds drop over the last week as the races have tightened. Bettors are giving Republican Dave McCormick a 30.8% chance to upset Senator Bob Casey, a Democrat in Pennsylvania, Republican Mike Rogers a 31.8% chance to beat Representative Alyssa Slotkin, a Democrat from Michigan, and Republican Eric Hovde, no idea if that's how you pronounce his name, a 32.1% chance of ousting Senator Tammy Baldwin, a Democrat from Wisconsin. Republicans certainly have a chance of flipping those. If the election were held today, then on average, those odds suggest they'd win one of those three. So if they did win one of these three, then most likely they'd wind up 53-47 in the Senate. He also shared that betting odds for House and Senate races are nearly as predictive as presidential election betting odds. There has not been a major difference, he said. He noted, though, that bettors have been slightly worse at predicting governor's races than any other, which is kind of interesting. There's a chart here. So Senate only, governors only, president only, and primaries only. So they're the best. So you want to be, zero means perfect accuracy, so lower is better. So they've been the best at predicting in primaries. And I believe, so betting has been more accurate than 538. It's interesting that 538 has been better in general. Looking at, these are basically the same. This one's slightly lower. So governors, the bettors are a little bit worse. The bettors are a little bit worse than 538 with the presidency and with the Senate. They're notably worse with governors, but they're better with the primaries and they're better overall with all of them. That's interesting. Whale watch. Do splash bets shift odds? Reports of whale bettors have surfaced in the final stretch of election season. Notably, $43 million was wagered across 4 polymarket accounts on Trump and other scenarios featuring Republican victory. According to blockchain analyst Miguel Morel, these 4 accounts may be the same entity. Other sizable bets have also been made recently, including a $500,000 bet on Harris to win the election last week on the first fully legal widespread election betting platform in the United States, Kalshi. So they bet $514,955 to win $1,202,325. On whether these large bets can affect the election odds, Lott admitted they may have played some role in bringing up Trump's odds in general. However, he also said the former president has also gained in the odds regardless of the big whale traders. He pointed to U.S.-based exchange PredictIt, which only allows users to bet up to $850 on each candidate. Quoting, as a result, there are no whales there and little ability for anyone to do arbitrage and bring it in line with the other markets. Yet PredictIt has still shifted to Trump and currently gives him between a 53 and 54% chance of winning. So we know that bettors favor Trump, whales or no whales, Lott said. Now, he mentioned an October surprise, and I've got something queued up here in just a minute that may be something like that. We're going to get deep into some of the salacious rumor territory, but I'm going to preface it by saying it definitely is salacious rumors, and I have no idea if there's anything to it. But big announcement today was that the Washington Post won't endorse in the White House race for the first time since the 1980s. Even though the presidential race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris is neck and neck, the Washington Post has decided not to make a presidential endorsement for the first time in 36 years, the publisher and CEO announced Friday. We are returning to our roots of not endorsing presidential candidates, Will Lewis wrote in an opinion piece published on the paper's website. He referenced the paper's policy in the decades prior to 1976, when, following the Watergate scandal that the Post broke, it endorsed Democratic nominee Jimmy Carter. The last time the Post did not endorse a presidential candidate in the general election was 1988, according to a search of its archives. Colleagues learned the news from the editorial page editor David Shipley at a tense meeting shortly before Lewis's announcement. The meeting was characterized by 2 people with direct knowledge of discussions on condition of anonymity to speak about internal matters. Shipley had approved an editorial endorsement for Harris that was being drafted earlier this month, according to 3 people with direct knowledge. He told colleagues the decision to endorse was being reviewed by the paper's billionaire owner, Jeff Bezos. That's the owner's prerogative and is a common practice. On Friday, Shipley said that he told other editorial board leaders on Thursday that management had decided there would be no endorsement, though Shipley had known about that decision for a while. He added that he owns this outcome. The reason he cited was to create independent space where the newspaper does not tell people for whom to vote. Colleagues were said to be shocked and uniformly negative. Editor-at-large Robert Kagan, who has been highly critical of Trump as autocratic, told NPR he had resigned from the editorial board as a consequence. Former Washington Post executive editor Martin Barron, who led the newsroom to acclaim during Trump's presidency, denounced the decision starkly. This is cowardice, a moment of darkness that will leave democracy as a casualty, Barron said in a statement to NPR. Donald Trump will celebrate this as an invitation to further intimidate the Post's owner, Jeff Bezos, and other media owners. History will mark a disturbing chapter of spinelessness at an institution famed for courage. Yes, that's what WaPo is known for, their courage. The Washington Post Guild, which represents newsroom employees and other staff, posted a message on X saying it was concerned about management's interference into journalism, considering that the editorial board already had drafted a statement of support for Harris. We are already seeing cancellations from once loyal readers, the statement said. Indeed, more than 1,600 digital subscriptions had been canceled less than 4 hours after the news broke, according to internal correspondence reviewed by NPR. 1,600! Ah! Honestly, 1,600 is probably a big number for them. The furor at the Post was such that its chief tech officer, furor, I like saying that, furor, such that its chief tech officer directed engineers to block questions about its decision on the paper's own AI site search, according to internal correspondence reviewed by NPR. Post corporate spokespeople declined to comment beyond Lewis's statement to readers. A similar decision by Los Angeles Times owner Patrick Soon-Shiong led this week to the resignations of the paper's editorials editor and 2 editorial board members. Soon-Shiong said that he had asked the editorial board to draft a factual analysis of Trump and Harris's policies and plans. In her resignation letter, editorials editor Mariel Garza said the decision made the paper look craven and hypocritical given its past reporting and editorials on Trump. The Post investigative team has routinely reported on wrongdoing and allegations of illegality by Trump and his associates, blah, 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 blah. Earned a Pulitzer Prize for its examination of what Trump did in January 2021, just desecrating the Pulitzer. The possibility that the Post might withhold an endorsement was first reported by Oliver Darcy's newsletter Status. Even before Friday's announcement, the potential lack of an editorial drew consternation from journalists within the Post, who see it as a major American publication that needs to weigh in on the most pressing issue of the day. Post owner Bezos, the Amazon founder and one of the world's richest people, has major contracts before the federal government and his other business operations, with billion-dollar implications affecting Amazon's shipping business and cloud computing services, as well as his Blue Origin space company. Remember I shared with you guys the thing about all of the supply chain crime that's been happening in the U.S., that it's up like orders of magnitude, cost like $155 million in I think it was the first quarter of 2024. That's directly affecting Mr. Bezos' bottom line. Bezos brought in Lewis, who has significant conservative bona fides, as publisher and CEO in January. Lewis held the same role at Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal, served as the editor of the London-based Telegraph, which is closely allied with the Tory party, and was a consultant to conservative Boris Johnson when Johnson was UK Prime Minister. Colleagues have told NPR that Bezos selected Lewis in part for his ability to get along with powerful conservative figures, including Murdoch. In his memoir, Collision of Power, Barron wrote that then-publisher Fred Ryan did not want to make an endorsement in the 2016 race, pitting Trump against former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Then editorial page editor Fred Hyatt considered resigning. Bezos replied at the time, "Why wouldn't we make an endorsement?" Very, very interesting. As Straight Buster in the chat says, non-endorsement is a Trump endorsement. Correct. All right. So I just had a tweet here. Washington Post editor-at-large Robert Kagan confirms to me that he resigned from the Post following today's decision not to endorse in the presidential race. And there was something else. Let's see. Close this tab. Close this tab. What was the other thing I was going to read here? Okay, so this was all stuff that was just covered in what I read. Oh, yeah, here. From that last piece. Lewis had notably dialed back on the paper's Trump-era slogan, "Democracy dies in darkness," said to be penned by the legendary Bob Woodward and embraced by Marty Barron. Legendary Bob Woodward. Guy's a hack. Lewis writes that the unusual circumstances of the 1952 elections led us to make an exception, as though the choice of Ike and Adlai Stevenson, 2 highly regarded candidates, posed a starker choice than Trump v. Harris. Lewis makes a similar point about Ford v. Carter. What were those understandable reasons forcing a radical departure? They're so mad. And continuing with the trend, the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, which has the highest concentration of Arab and Muslim Americans in the country, says he is not endorsing any candidate for president. Mayor Hamoud is a Democrat. You're not going to play.
When you get to the
There
top
it
of the
is.
ticket, or when you arrive at the top, when you get to the top of the ticket, or when you arrive at the top of the ticket, what I advocate for, what I endorse is that you vote your moral conscience. And for many, for each individual, that's going to mean something differently. But I'm leaving it to them. I am not endorsing any single candidate for president, as I have not found any candidate, especially the candidate with the party that I've affiliated myself with, who has been willing to depart from the current course that President Biden has taken us down on the genocide in Gaza and the broader conflict that has now touched Lebanon. You know, I have, you know, my wife's cousin was just killed a few days ago as a paramedic in Lebanon. Her grandparents' house was just bombed, the house in which her father helped build. Our county commissioner just posted that the house in which he grew up in and has memories in was just targeted and blown up. This is civilian infrastructure. The first Lebanese American citizen that was slaughtered by the Israeli government was a Dearborn resident. Many of my friends and family have now lost family and loved ones. My wife was not able to go to her grandmother's funeral in Lebanon because of the war, and she will never have closure. Watching my mother-in-law day in and day out know that she was not present for the burial of her mother. These are things. These are direct impacts on the residents that I serve day in and day out that people just don't comprehend or understand. To your point earlier, when you see the scenes unfolding on social media, when you see the genocide being live streamed, to many, these are faces of strangers, villages, names that they've never heard of. To all of us here in the city of Dearborn, the images of the individuals you've seen being slaughtered, these are our friends and our family. The villages that you've seen being bombarded and decimated, these are our ancestral homes. And so that is why I have taken the position that I have taken.
They have made their bed. Now let them lie in it. They created this this coalition of minorities, and it turns out that some of their minorities don't want to be in a coalition with others of their minorities. Does imagine being such a shitty left-wing candidate that you lose anti-Israel votes to Trump. You're right. All right, so here's the thing I'm gonna share with you guys. This is where I sit right now. I kind of think that it's probably going to be a nothing burger, but there's the outside chance that it's not a nothing burger. In which case, yeah, I know about it now, so I'll share it with you guys. The sources are not ones that I would typically anticipate as super reliable, but it does seem to square with some other stuff that's going around. So, Mr. George Santos, a very interesting poster, former Republican congressman who was censured. Breaking. It's all over for VP Kamala Harris tomorrow. Democrats are going to be wishing they never dumped Joe. These allegations that were just shared with me are horrible.
Oh, hey guys. Gotta tell you something. It's so crazy. I just got off the phone with a source, and they're telling me that tomorrow the Kamala Harris ship sinks. You're gonna see all the rats jumping off. The story that's gonna break tomorrow is so damning and so bad that Democrats are going to distance themselves from her like something you've never seen before. And essentially, you might even see some asking for people to vote for Trump. This is wild. Stay tuned as this drops tomorrow.
So I saw this yesterday, and I'm not really inclined to treat George Santos as the apotheosis of honest reporting. However, Vorpal Anvils is totally not gay vibes. Oh, he's extremely gay and very proud of it. So I just kind of tucked this away. This is 2 days ago. I was like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. Then we get the thing with the LA Times and now WaPo. And I'm like, it does seem like there's something going on. Kamala suddenly stops campaigning. And there's something that's lurking beneath the surface. There's something that's out there that people know about that's moving the markets. You saw Trump, all of a sudden it's just been widening and widening and widening. There's something in the air. There's something going on. There's been a few different people who've been teasing that there's some really dark thing that's going to drop related to either Tim Walz or Kamala or both. So then, I actually had the same window open twice. Yesterday, he tweeted this. He says, in the past, I always wanted to go to a Diddy party or Jay-Z party. Now I just want to ask VP Harris what they were like since she's speculated to have been in attendance. So we're getting maybe a little clue, a little hint. And then yesterday evening, he said, I'm going to put some pressure. The massive publication that is sitting on the Kamala story is doing so because they're allegedly waiting to clear everything with their legal team. They've had the video and story on their hands for 2 days, and I know for a fact it does not take that long to clear a legal review, especially for them. Point is, I cannot say what I know because I don't have access to the records and I'd be wildly exposed legally. I'm under the advice of counsel to not say anything further than this. I don't need clicks. I don't want attention. I want the truth out there for Americans to see. Unlike in 2020, when a cover-up campaign was run at the behest of Joe Biden with the help of 51 members of the intelligence community, all of whom lied and fabricated facts about the laptop. I'm alive and plan to stay that way. So he's getting a little more specific. Still, I've been let down by these sorts of things enough times to be very skeptical. Then I saw this one today. So this is Allie Carter, who never heard of before, but did a quick little search, and she's apparently one of Diddy's main accusers. She also claims to be, from what I read, she also claims to be Tupac's daughter, and she's got a whole big operation. She's got a website. She's got everything. So to take this for what it is, but they're getting pretty specific with all this stuff, and everything else is leading me to believe there's something going on behind the scenes.
There's an arrest coming. There's actually 2 arrests that are already made. There's a 3rd one coming. I don't know why people are sitting on this. I'm ready. I see that some people are not. I've been ready. A lot of you are ready. Like, let's get this shit over with, right? You're like, just release it. Just drop it. For whatever reason, even on the Ghislaine Maxwell case, people are holding on to names because they know it's going to destroy some of these celebrities because you guys love them. It's going to destroy a lot of these celebrities because they know they're wrong. They've been doing this for decades. They've been putting it in your face. They've been mocking their victims, and they've gotten away with it because who they keep in their back pocket and who they pay. There is a 3rd arrest that is coming. There's 2 that's already down. There's a raid that's about to go on. And on top of that, it's somebody that has something to do with an affidavit that I have already released. I am telling you, we know that it's coming. I knew it was coming when I made sure there was sworn and legal affidavits already ready 6 to 8 months ago. I'm telling you right now that they're about to grab them and they're about to announce it. When they announce it, we got a problem. We got a big problem. Because there's ways that this is about to go. I think a lot of you guys are everybody's like, we're ready. We're ready until it's happening. And then everybody's like, well, I wasn't ready. Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of that. There's no other way to get ready. There's no other way to prepare. There's no protocol for what's about to happen. The world is going to crumble when they see this next arrest. In the meantime, there's going to be deaths, distractions, and fires to hide evidence. Watch for it, ask questions, demand answers. You know who's on those flight logs. You do. You know who should be arrested. You all do. You know that laptop from hell is real. You know that the black book is real. You know Ghislaine Maxwell's customers are who everybody is watching in the everyday news, including those who you drop your kids off with every day. Your schools, your doctors, big banks, Chase Bank, Bank of America. There is a lot of people that are attached because this goes very deep. I told y'all this is a spider web that is tangled and tangled and tangled and woven intricately. I am telling you right now that once one goes, it's going to pull on a big string. That arrest is coming. 90s, we need your help. We need witnesses. We need your help. If you have counted that cost, please message us through the website, aliesarmy.com. There's admin there that are ready to catch.
So is this legit? No idea. It definitely does sound like QAnon bullshit. But this is from the chick that is one of Diddy's main accusers. And like I said, the only reason that I'm sharing this is because it seems like there's something that's out there. Aside from these vague posts, there's something that's out there. Given everything else going on right now, having the LA Times and WaPo both suddenly, seemingly at the last minute, pivot from a Harris endorsement that was planned to nope, put that shit away. We're not getting involved. We're staying out of it. That could be attributable to just them knowing what time it is. But I'm not really that optimistic about them. I'm not anticipating them being willing to just pivot that aggressively. I think that they're afraid of something. Now, is it this? I don't know. It could be something else. There's rumors about some really dark Tim Walz stuff yet to drop. Those rumors have been around for a while and nothing has dropped, so that could be that there isn't anything coming. These aren't exactly trustworthy sources, but they're both saying the same thing. So if it does happen, well, you got some advance notice. And if it doesn't, then it's business as usual. Jason Miranchuk in the chat said, vengeful son, here comes the stone. He's been saying that the vengeful son is here, waiting for the first stone to be tossed. And this does line up to be something like that. Some huge thing breaks, and all of this pent-up energy, all the Epstein energy, the Diddy energy, all that pent-up energy breaks right before the election. That would be an October surprise. And the fallout would be immense. He says WaPo standing down is a huge data point. Right? Because you know that in ordering WaPo to stand down, they knew what was going to happen. They knew that there was going to be a massive scandal over it. So that massive scandal is apparently worth it to them because of what else is out there. So I put in the title a new breed of conservative. I know you guys aren't going to like this video, but you know, Jason's been talking about the neotrads. And everyone will want to say, no, she's not a conservative. This is the new American mainstream. This is going to be the ruling ideology going forward for, I don't know, a few decades at least. This is going to represent mainstream opinion, what's normalized within the Overton window.
Am I right to say there's a new breed of conservatives? I think I'm one of them. I'm not religious, though I have no issue with those that are. I am pro-gay rights because I feel like you should be able to love who you love. If you want to do your 420 stuff, by all means, go for it. As far as women controlling their own bodies, I feel like, for the most part, up until a certain point, they should have that right. I don't want men in the women's bathrooms. I don't want my daughters facing off against boys in sports. If you want to take a poke in the arm, by all means, go for it. Just don't make me do it. I am pro 2A. We love our pew-pews in this house. As far as border security is concerned, I think there needs to be a tight border, but I also think there needs to be an easier way to citizenship. For those that are law-abiding, that is. I am pro school choice. I think that should be left into the hands of the parents. Parents need to be in control of their kids' health care. If you are a transgender adult, I have zero issue with that, but leave the kids alone. Mental health is an epidemic, and it needs to be addressed. For the most part, I am very live and let live. If this resonates with you, comment and tell me where you're from. We are in Missouri.
You might call this an Elon Musk conservative or a neotrad. This is the new mainstream. This is the new popular culture. That's the direction that we're heading. You can protest against it all you want. You can talk about how much it sucks. Yes, it sucks. But compare this to what was normie and mainstream 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There's a trajectory here. Junksock said, pipeline established. Indeed. So you can look at the dark side of this, which is, oh my God, insufferable libertarianism is going to become dominant. And the great thing is, insufferable libertarianism is going to be the dominant reigning ideology, and nobody's going to be friends with libertarians still. They're still going to be on the outside, just begging for a crumb of attention. Yes, generic anti-wokeism is the new conservatism. Yes. Brace yourself. Now, the light side of this is that these are people you can live with. These are people that you can grill with. These are people you can build with. Their problem is their shallowness, their naivete. But they're not deranged lunatics. This is what's going to be normal and American. Is going to be celebrated and enjoyed. The popular culture is pivoting in this direction. So we can walk around outside with our MAGA hats on. We're not going to be inundated with woke propaganda all the time. There's going to be a huge revival in authentic American spirit in our sports and our movies and everything else. The Straight Buster said that was many of us not long ago. Yes, we are the vanguard. What we've gone through, everyone else is coming through now. When it happens at the mass scale, though, it's a little different than when it happens at the individual scale. And even what happens at the individual scale is actually, it's kind of a model for the mass scale, actually, as I think about it. Because of the people who've gone through this, you see the way they splinter in which direction they go. Some get really black-pilled and demoralized and radicalized and angry and resentful. Some get, like, they awaken and they dedicate themselves to building and forming networks and communities and doing stuff that's productive. And then some just kind of are like, whatever. They just kind of check out. All these positions are going to be represented within the zeitgeist. But this is going to be the center of the zeitgeist. We're going to get media pandering to us even more. The idea that anybody was woke before is going to, like, people are going to run away from it like leprosy. It's going to be real fake. It's going to be real kitsch. Cringy. Like Jason's been saying, the conservatives want 1955 and the libs want 1995, and they're going to end up settling around 1985. So the memes are going to be fantastic. And what this is we have the raw materials. We will have the raw materials to fashion something really cool out of it. But we have to see that potential. We have to recognize that potential. And we have to love our fellow Americans and be willing to live with them, even if they are a gigantic pile of cringe. This is better than trannies. You see what you guys are saying here. Ryan Isaac says, it truly does suck. Hey, libertarians, why don't you wish you had... Don't you wish you had power now that people agree with you? FBI informant says, all right, you sold me. It's better than nothing changing. Does this mean AA beats Orrin? Jason says they aren't going to get you fired and have your bank account seized for saying a mild offhand bigot joke. Jason says Orrin still wins because they put a time limit on the prediction bet. It'll take longer to put the woke away. Yeah, Lolbert is the far left is acceptable for now. Yeah, these are the people that would be easier to radicalize. You guys get it. You don't need me here telling you all this. You guys get it. As an example of how the woke are being put away in a sense, I've got a kind of a longer one here. It's worthwhile. It's funny. It's kind of sloppy, but there's some humor in it. And I know all about the stuff about Matt Rife. I'm not holding up Matt Rife as some sort of a paragon of anything here. But this is put on your David Attenborough hat and watch this and see what you draw from this whole interaction. 7 minutes long. And genuinely, like, his personal foibles aside, Matt Rife knows how to work a crowd.
You Welsh? No. Where you from? England.
Sorry, that volume is really high. Let me pull it down.
Oh, faggot! No, I'm kidding. I don't know if you can say that here or not. You definitely cannot in the States. And who are you here with tonight? Your girlfriend? Hi, girlfriend. You ever done any drug ever? Never once? You can't be from here. You're not? Where from? England. Faggot! No, I'm kidding. But that's the last time. I think I get 2. 2 is the limit, I'm pretty sure. Just every person we meet from England tonight. Not gay, right? You are for real? You're lying. I meant cigarettes. I think I got lost in translation of swear. Are you really gay? Then I retract. Still faggot though. Still faggot. No fucking, what are the fucking odds?
Watch their faces. Everyone is just absolutely digging this.
What's your name? What is it? Henry. Pleasure to meet you, Henry. Who are you here with tonight, Henry? Ryan? Boyfriend Ryan? No, just a friend? Okay. Also gay? Yes. Okay, just fucking scoping it out. Wow. 23, gay, never done Molly. I say go for it. You've already put way worse things in your body. I think you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be okay. Henry, you in university? No.
Cancel culture is done, by the way. That whole thing, that's gone.
You working? Unemployed? What? What do you want to do? Dream job? Pilot. Ugh. Flight attendant, maybe. We know who doesn't have a nut allergy. Ryan, what about yourself? You're a cop? Really?
Now listen to how the cop is described, how he describes himself.
Nah, not again. Not again. Not knowing what we know now. No. No. Would have been funny, but I can't commit. No. When was the last time you arrested somebody? A few months ago. You work in control? What does that mean? You're top? Are you really? That a boy. What weapon do you have?
So we just have batons and like pepper spray.
Batons and pepper spray. That would, I know it stings, but it's just the gayest weapon. It sounds gay. Okay. Ryan? Where's Henry? The toilet? Which one? Cute. See, taking a shit? Yes? Well, shouldn't be long then. That was a bit much. Are there speakers in the bathroom? No? Okay, some venues are like that so that people don't miss the show. They can hear through the speaker. It just would have been funny to fuck with them. Get out of that glory hole, Henry. Anyways, Henry. How are you? How was the bathroom? You get lockjaw? Ryan was talking shit. We weren't even talking about you. Oh, it's the light from Matt. I was like, what's fucking flashing on you guys over there? I didn't say hello earlier. Good to see you, buddy. How old are you? 22. What's your name? Liam. Pleasure to meet you, Liam. Gay? Really? Dude. I'm on one tonight. This is crazy. Really? Nice, Liam. Liam, you single? No. Boyfriend. Where's he at? Home? Where's home? London? Do it. Call on the word. No, don't. Do not. Do not. I will kick you out of here. Do not do that. Well, nice to meet you, Liam. I can have a what? I can have a pass? Why, thank you. Any black people feel like doing the same thing? Like the show's been going pretty well. Like maybe just fire off a couple. No. Too cute, Leo. Can't be too careful. I'm surrounded now. Hold on. I bet there's one more gay in here. Hold on. Is that a flashing wristband? Yeah, it's pretty gay. Female? No. Man? Since when? All the time? Born a man? Really? Huh. Nice to meet you. How old are you?
19.
Second row. 19? You're 19. You look like a pixie. You're 19 years old. You would be a pedophile's dream. 19. Sorry, you caught me very off guard. What is your name? Devon. Devon? Yeah. Devon. Yeah. Devon. Okay. Gay? Really? I'm starting to think I'm magic, dude. Like, what if I'm just turning people gay? No, that's fuck. I didn't know if maybe you just love flannel. I didn't know. That's awesome.
FBI informant says he's surrounded by them. Yeah. So here's the thing. This is not like Matt Rife is as like normie slop comedy as you can get. He's got himself an audience full of gay people. And they're the ones who are laughing about all of this. The wokeness is dead. It's still gonna live on. You know, the hippies, like the hippies do. But the younger generations, they like saying faggot and retard. They like making gay jokes. They just like it. Brian, this is what I would expect Michael Scott to say, and now it's humor, not a bigot thing. Yeah, this is it almost sounds like I was going to say 4chan, but it's not. It's pretty toned down for 4chan. But this sort of comedy was an absolute no. Not that long ago. And you have a completely normie, mainstream, shitlib comedian out here dropping F slurs. Now notice he didn't actually, it would have been so perfect. So of course he mentioned the black guys, but he didn't actually go all the way. And what would have just, I was waiting for it, the whole video. It would have made it just so perfect if he did it a third time. Like with that chick, as soon as she said she was gay, if he was like, faggot, that would have been just perfect. It would have sealed the whole deal. He didn't do it. And I assume he didn't do it in the rest of the thing, but he's the one who tweeted this out. He's the one who's promoting this. I'm not going to read that one out loud, Ian. Another little vibe shift. Justin Trudeau. We are going to significantly reduce the number of immigrants coming to Canada for the next 2 years. This is temporary to pause our population growth and let our economy catch up. We have to get the system working right for all Canadians. Say what now? Immigrants are key to our economy. That's why we're going to significantly reduce the number of them we get for the next 2 years so that our economy can catch up. How can you be black-pilled? They are all bending the knee. Anyone else listening on X? Hedonism Bot wants to know. Yes, are you listening on X? Let us know. Dude, we hit 100. We're at 103. Shout out to you guys. 103, and we've still got a couple of stories left. Yeah, comedy works in threes. Missed opportunity. He should have just sent the gamer word. Yeah, we haven't moved that far yet. He can't just drop gamer words yet. But we're close. We're not far. I wonder if I have... This would be perfect for that other... Should have really just had this story ready. But let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Directly related to what you're talking about. Notice me, Senpai. I noticed you. It's good to have you here. Maybe I didn't save it. Scrolling. Man, it's terrible podcasting. I should have just had it ready to go, but I had so many today that I didn't know if I could fit another one in. I'm going to try a couple of search terms to see if I can bring it up. And if I can't, then I'll just make sure I include it in a future episode. It was a song by some rap song by some guy talking about let the kids say the N-word. Let the white kids say the N-word. I'm not finding it. If I can find it again, then I'll share it. But as a black guy rapping about how we just need to let the white kids just say the N-word, doesn't matter. Pig's name is Pig Dirk. Yes, he's head of the pig family. All right, so Bennett's phylactery. He says, we've seen a lot of vulgar displays of power in the last few years. COVID, BLM, Epstein, the Steele, etc. But they never seem to go anywhere because USG is not a human institution with goals. It's a fungus. Civil war, but the other side is a fungus. Oop, come on. Hearing a lot of buzz about the impending civil war on the TL because the deep state will stop at nothing to ensure that Trump does not take office. It is certainly true that there are powerful constituencies within the state doing everything in their power to ensure that Trump is not elected, with little regard for the law and less regard for institutional integrity. But the way these constituencies act in concert has more in common with an anthill than an explicit criminal conspiracy. The degree to which the system can seem intelligent is frequently uncanny, but it's swarm intelligence, not human intelligence. No one is calling the shots at the top, which dramatically changes what they can and can't do to stop him. This explains many mysteries of the regime's inscrutable will. If they have been shambling toward war with Russia for the last 15 years, why didn't they make any preparations for the logistical and infrastructural costs of fighting such a war? Likewise, China. Why antagonize them while making zero effort to restore America's industrial base? If they get to handpick the Democratic candidate with zero input from the voters, why would they choose one of the least popular figures in the party? If they can just steal the election from under Donald Trump, why are they scrambling, putting billions of dollars on the line as if it matters? If the plan was to sink his campaign with lawfare, why would they needle him with these penny-ante, obviously frivolous suits that make him more popular and don't actually interfere with his ability to campaign? If they could just whack him, why isn't he whacked? It isn't just that the parties are individually stupid. These are decisions that even a very stupid executive would not make if he were really in charge. The system's behavior is more like a slime mold, blindly crawling toward nutrients, or zombies piling up against a wall until one can climb over the top. All of these decisions make good sense as the response of individual actors to individual incentives within their narrow bureaucratic fiefs. Lots of people got rich off NATO expansion. No one in the system was incentivized to prepare for the war. Alvin Bragg and Letitia James were never capable of defeating or neutralizing Trump, but that was never their objective. Kamala Harris's nomination makes sense as the aggregate will of a handful of warring bureaucratic constituencies within the DNC, but she obviously isn't who you'd choose if you were God Emperor Obama and you could anoint the candidate most likely to win. Taken together, the agglomeration of these incentives means that the regime clearly has a hard-on for President Trump, but it isn't able to make a fist and smash him the way a person could if they were in personal control of the most powerful military and surveillance machine in history. Likewise, the regime hates you, but it can't actually go to war with you. Right-wingers intuitively understand that there will never be a day when the people learn the truth about how evil the government is and rise up as one to overthrow it. It will never happen because however much it might be in our collective interest, it will never be in our individual interest. Nobody wants to be the first through the door. But this intuition hasn't made its way to our thinking about our enemies' difficulties. So we still imagine a day where their hostility spontaneously organizes into coherent Prussian industrial murder. But that isn't how it's going to work. COVID was the high water line of managerial liberalism's control over the American people. If you were a boomer-doomer prepper in the 90s waiting to be deloused in a FEMA camp and microchipped with the mark of the beast, COVID was the vindication of all your worst fears. Sort of. Just as you would have predicted, government bureaucrats revealed themselves to be bottomlessly tyrannical and venal and soulless, and the American people pretty much went along with it like cattle. The Illuminati had us right where they wanted us, injected with the demonic sterility plague and cowering in our homes, unable to buy or sell. But then what happened? while the various tyrannies and absurdities went on in a haphazard way for several more months, enforced unevenly according to the ego and cussedness and status anxiety of local bureaucrats. But the cabal never sprang their trap and permanently consolidated totalitarian control over the citizens. Instead, every institution of American public life torched decades, if not centuries, of accumulated credibility and goodwill, only for the herd to eventually get bored and confused and trundle back to normal life a few months later. Likewise, looking naively at the propaganda, the mass mobilization, the property damage, and the money that changed hands over the BLM hysteria, you might be tempted to think that the regime was plotting an actual Bolshevik reign of terror. But it never materialized. There was no heroic confrontation in which the tyrants were thwarted. The mob just mindlessly discharged its will to destroy and then went back to sleep. The long-term consequences, as with COVID, were that a handful of hustlers got a payday at the cost of a catastrophic loss of institutional trust. There was no vision, malign or otherwise, governing these events. Not even the crude Leninist ambition to seize personal power. Just the slime mold, groping in the dark. The system is hostile in the sense that a fungus is hostile. Its best weapons are entropy. In a sense, the system is entropy. It isn't going to send an elite Black Ops team. It isn't going to send an elite Black Ops kill team after Trump. Instead, it surrounds him with DEI security, goads its most unstable constituents to violence, and hopes for the best. It doesn't rig elections from the top. Instead, it simply incentivizes a legal framework in which voter fraud is easy to do and hard to prosecute, and then tells every local election official that they have to do whatever it takes to stop literal Hitler. This is a very robust configuration because it's fully distributed and deniable. You can't decapitate it or put it on trial. Its mechanisms of coercion are so subterranean and diffuse and convoluted that it can be difficult to convince an ordinary person that they even exist. The weakness of such a configuration is that it isn't agile or precise or forward-thinking. It adapts to threats in an evolutionary sense, but it doesn't anticipate them. If you step out of its path, it doesn't chase you. So how will an enemy like that behave in the election? The system is not holding some cache of secret weapons in reserve in the event that Trump wins the election. The tools they have are the tools we've seen them deploy. Propaganda, schizo assassins, riots, ballot chicanery. The propaganda apparatus is falling apart as traditional media gets eaten by independent sources. Riots could discredit Trump as an incumbent, but they can't help Harris now. Schizo assassins were always a Hail Mary, and it looks like Trump's security team has hardened things up. May it be so. So what's left to them is ballot chicanery. But most of the swing states have tighter electoral security than they did in 2020, as well as a more vigilant, not to say radicalized, local Republican apparatus. Besides which, Kamala has to deal with the fact that the voters have seen her agenda in action, while voters in 2020 could convince themselves that Biden represented a return to the mellow good times Clintonian DNC of the 90s. If all that doesn't work, it seems like it might not work, what's next? There's a sense in which the regime as a whole is implacably self-destructively hostile to Trump, but the various institutions and personalities who compose the regime are not. To say that the individual bureaucratic functionary would stop at nothing to keep Trump out of the White House is to misunderstand them badly. Many of them obviously have no moral compunctions about violating the Constitution in general, or specifically having Trump imprisoned or killed, but they're cowards and conformists, not fanatics. They're not ready to die for TDS. Besides which, they've spent the last decade doing everything they can to alienate and demoralize the police and military who would presumably carry out their orders in a civil war. The evidence of that weakness is most obvious in the Red Sea, where a very primitive force has successfully stood off a carrier strike group for the last year on one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. If the U.S. military has judged that it can't afford the PR and morale hit to knock out the Houthis, the idea that they've got enough suction to get Americans shooting at each other is fanciful. So the most likely outcome is that he wins, and they just stonewall him like they did last time, and try to leave him holding the bag on the impending fiscal collapse. It's not that the situation isn't dangerous. If Trump wins, there will definitely be riots in blue cities and probably a lot of property damage. But it's not obvious what tools they will be able to deploy to dislodge him that they haven't already deployed. And if they find a way to dump enough ballots on Kamala, the United States of America is over as a coherent political entity. Immigration alone will swamp the boat, besides the state's insurmountable fiscal, foreign policy, and demographic problems. But the threat of violence is unlikely to come directly from agents of the state acting on orders. It will come instead from the various opportunistic infections that the dying state allows to fester. What makes our situation dangerous is the state's weakness, not its strength. Could not underline this enough times. What makes our situation dangerous is the state's weakness, not its strength. Regardless of which way the election goes, the way to prepare is the same. Get to a jurisdiction where your civil and property rights will be respected. Get together often with useful friends. Secure assets that are difficult to inflate away or expropriate. Exit news. On last week's full group call on 1015, we discussed Fustel de Coulanges, the ancient family, and what the organization of primitive families and states means for those trying to create a new vision of the state. On this week's call, 1022, we'll be discussing the details of our new business incubator. Salt Lake Lunch Meetup, members only on 1025. Check the Utah channel for details. The DFW guys are shooting airsoft on 11-2. Inquire within. Last weekend was our Austin Cocktail Hour. We'll be doing these monthly from now on. Stay tuned. We're moving the Cocktail Hour invites to a separate post. Meantime, if you're a subscriber, you can access the RSVP for the San Francisco meetup on 11-9 here. I'll be throwing a link to this in the master thread. It won't be direct. I'll link to his original tweet because I'm not going to link to a Substack post from Twitter because it'll just get killed. Yes, this is probably the best write-up on this that I've seen so far. He put into words a lot of the intuitions and sort of understandings that I have that I've struggled to put into words exactly. He laid it out in great detail. And I want to highlight one particular thing here again. Get to a jurisdiction where your civil and property rights will be respected. Get together often with useful friends. Secure assets that are difficult to inflate away or expropriate. We're building for what comes next. Join us at Exit Group. You need to get together with a community. You need to have a community of like-minded people who are keeping track of this stuff, who can connect to each other in multiple different ways, and who are building together. Whether you join Exit Group or the Old Glory Club or the King Pill Discord, you need a connection. You need a group of people who are like-minded, who you can prepare with together. Your network will determine your success in the coming years. There's going to be a bunch of great opportunities, and you're going to want to have a network that you can trust, that you can rely on, that has diverse skills, that can navigate more flexibly and adapt on the fly a lot better than the regime can. The regime's coming crashing down. We're going to get a regime change. It's going to be a temporary regime. It's going to be a Band-Aid regime that lasts for anywhere from a decade to a few decades before we get the big mamma jamma. That's my prediction, which is a grace to us. We'll have time to build during this temporary regime, but we're not going to have a lot of time. We got to get on it. So don't just be a lurker. If you're going to use the internet, if you're going to follow shows like this one, if you're going to be posting, make the most of it. Go get connected to a group. We offer to you kingpill.com, the King Pill Discord server, where we will be holding a schizo stream this evening in about 2 hours. We'll be watching the next 2 episodes of Tucker Carlson's Art of the Surge documentary, and then we'll be hanging out and talking for a while. So if you'd like to join us, go to kingpill.com, sign up. We would love to have you. I saw a question earlier, are the schizo streams saved? No, you cannot watch past schizo streams, and that's intentional. We want to make it a little less, because everyone gets involved. You have lots of different people who are in there, and we're all talking, and I want people to feel as comfortable as possible to talk and say whatever they want without thinking they're being recorded. I mean, obviously, you're being recorded by the NSA, but everything you say is being recorded by the NSA. You just assume that's a default. But I intentionally don't record the schizo streams because I want people to feel free to just kind of talk and engage freely. Last thing I got for you guys today, just a kind of an interesting thing. From Woman Definer. Why does it say that I'm not following him? I've been following him, but apparently I got unfollowed from him. He says, saw a news clip this morning which caused me to start researching the piebald color patterns on animals because moose and deer have it. The only other animals to have these specific color patterns are animals that have undergone captive breeding programs. It's a fascinating color palette for a moose or a deer. He said, it makes me wonder if at one time there were domesticated populations of moose and deer in the Americas. The Swedes tried to use them as war mounts, and some accounts say they actually did. Reading from Wikipedia, it says, the moose has been used in Sweden to draw the sleighs of royal couriers since at least the reign of Charles IX. They proved effective in this role, able to travel around 230 miles in a day. Some sources state that as a development of this role, Charles XI trialed the use of moose cavalry. The intention was apparently to replace the horses of one of his cavalry regiments with moose to avoid the need to import horses as with the contemporary practice. It is said to have been thought that the animals would cause fear in the horses of enemy cavalry, allowing formations to be broken without the need for artillery or musketry. The idea was allegedly presented to the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences in Stockholm. It is said that during training, the moose was too fearful to allow itself to be ridden into battle and took fright at the sound of gunfire. They were also said to be of too peaceful in nature for the purpose. Is this moose that we're talking about here? Moose were also more susceptible to disease than horses, and there was difficulty in feeding the animals, which were used to foraging across large areas rather than being fed on fodder in pasture. Moose-based transit is so Hyperborean. Yeah. He says, I have my doubts about the passage of moose being too fearful and fleeing at gunfire, as moose are known for charging hunters after being shot multiple times. And I have my my doubts about them being too peaceful in nature for the purpose, unless the character of moose has changed dramatically over the past several centuries, because moose are gigantic, belligerent assholes. There's nothing peaceful or fearful about them. And here's a video substantiating his point that they're not exactly afraid of gunfire. Old boy almost got done in. He says the woman filming has no idea how bad that was about to go. See how frickin' gigantic that thing is? And that's not even a real big one either. Look at that big boy. This guy says usually the captive breeding programs required finding a wild one and captive breeding it to replicate the pattern. And he says also could be one of those traits that only pop up through genetic mutations via inbreeding. He says that was most of the ball python color morphs. People trying to quickly cash in would breed the odd-colored snake, then breed the offspring back together to get the color and pattern to pop back up, making everyone you see inbred. He says it's why about 10% of those snakes are born with health problems leading to euthanasia. This is one of the things I love about our guys on Twitter is you got some random guy named Shrike who he and Woman Definer both happen to have esoteric knowledge about ball python breeding. Guy says, I like the Dalmatian deer. They look really cool. Look at that. A Dalmatian deer. So this one looks like a cow. Rideable moose or elk would just be so cool. Vitiligo. Humans have been captively bred. That's true. This is interesting here. He says, look up the fox domestication experiment. Only takes 10 generations and the colors and features change with behavior. That said, I think different splotch patterns occur in non-domesticated animals too, just usually not in the visible light spectrum. Cooper and I were talking about this as we were driving from Virginia to Michigan, and he mentioned how there was some Russian scientists who were doing fox breeding, and they were able to get a fully domesticated fox within like 3 generations or something. It was really a really short period of time, or it went from completely wild to completely domesticated. And as it domesticated, it started physically looking more and more like a dog. And this guy said, while there have absolutely been various attempts to selectively breed these animals, the fact that so many have bovine traits indicates that they are deer-cow hybrids. Academics would have you reject the evidence of your own eyes, saying that such crosses are impossible, but there have been many such cases. Some are documented here. The piebald pattern comes from the captive breeding of the cattle ancestor. New farming project is dropped. Oh, yeah. Didn't this happen with fox during an experiment in Russia? They were breeding fox to see if there was a domesticate gene, and eventually the fox started changing colors. Anyways, kind of an interesting little note to end it on. Shout out to our based autists on Twitter who happen to just know random facts about domestication patterns with wild animals. All right, guys. Well, we've gone right past 100. We're at 108 likes, still got 109 watching. Do me a favor and hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate you guys showing up for another episode of the Astrolabe. This is the last one of the week. We'll be back on Monday with a new one. I've already got some stuff queued up and ready to go for that. Be on the lookout for the master thread if you want to go peruse any of the things that I've shared, or you want to share it with someone else. Go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled, and you can access the master thread once I get it tweeted out here this afternoon. In 2 hours, we are going to be having the Schizo stream in the King Pill Discord, so go to kingpill.com and join us for that tonight. And let's see, what else? Buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. You can send me a little bit of cash in appreciation for all the hard work, slaving in the mines, the content mines for you guys. Put me on your payroll, as Jason says. And then, yeah, I think that's all I got. Thanks, guys. It was good having you today. And I give you Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trump-a-mania